Hello and welcome to Pale Reflections, a proud member of the Doof Network where we reflect on Wildbow's most Hammerian work as it releases. I'm Reuben Morehouse.
And I'm Elliot Diebold.
Are you? Yes, indeed. Well, I don't know. This is going to hurt my voice a bit if we keep doing this the whole episode, and we've got to introduce our guests as well, so...
Yeah, no, I agree. This is a fun gag, but I can't keep this up.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, that's better. Really, I just couldn't keep that up for very long.
We did pretty good. Like, we sounded legitimately like Reuben and Elliot.
No, I feel like those like training videos and stuff we were watching this week really helped.
I know. I mean, you fooled me. Forgot it was you.
Definitely. Anyways, surprise, bitches! Yeah, okay. I don't know. Okay. But I bet you thought you'd heard The Last of Us on this feed, like, for now.
Yeah. So, I know y'all noticed we were kicked off the last episode, but that just fortified our resolve. So, pretty sure we're here to stay. Sorry, Reuben and Elliot. You should probably try some different diagrams or something. Maybe get something better than McAfee. I thought you guys worked in tech, so would have assumed you'd get some better computer security, but anyway.
Yeah. I remember this is like for y'all's own good. Just like take a break, relax, like do some R&R, and we'll just do your podcast.
All right.
But the last time we were on a reflecting episode, we were covering Arc 10. And we thought that since this is Arc 20, it's double the number. And so we would double the ladies. So we're really excited to welcome our two guests today. Please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Kippos. You might know me from around the Discord and doing my live read, which just includes a lot of shitposting. So, yes, hi.
And Pace.
And Pace.
Needs another season.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Hello, I'm Snowdropstinyfan, also known as STF. You may know me as the author of the Conspiracy Doc back in, like, really Act 1 of Pale, or from the Arc 12 Reflecting episode. I also have made some other tracking docs that I maintain. We're back! Yay!
Yay! Super pumped about having you both on, so thank you so much. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Of course. Almost feel a little bit guilty for kicking Reuben and Elliot out, but not quite enough to get it back. So
yeah, that'll be fine.
They'll be fine. They'll get over it.
So as always, we're going to go through the summary of chapters in this arc because it was a very long one, and there are a lot of chapters. How many of us are there? What? There's like 16 or something. Yeah.
We almost need a summary for the summaries, but we didn't get that far. So we're just going to go and read them.
So believe it or not, 20.1 started with the promenade. Avery joins the Garricks to solve the promenade before Wondercan could find it or the wolf could get them. The Garrick traders show up, leading Wondercan to them, and the wolf wreaks havoc, vividly describing Peter Garrick's sexual fantasies and outing Avery to the homophobic Garrick family.
Man, that feels like it's about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Jeez. 20.2, we finally see one of the notorious finder killers, the Cakewalk, and how one Wondercan finder with big boobs and a bigger hammer shows it can live up to its name. Avery confronts Clint just before they complete the final leg of the promenade, with Wondercan and the wolf hot on their tails.
Yeah, I do think those should be reversed. I think it should be a big hammer and bigger boobs, because the boobs are described as, like, hammery mammaries, which,
I mean, that's
according to Avery's internal ranking, means big badonkadonks.
I apologize because you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. What an error. But you know what? At least we're correcting it now. Right.
Hey, we got so many paragraphs of description of that I feel like we have to do it justice.
You're right. Okay. Wondercan finder with a big hammer and big bazonkas.
That's all I wanted in life, really. So. Okay. Then in 20.3, Verona tries to fill in Avery's dad about what happened, trying to explain the levers of the universe to him a little bit and what it means while getting tutoring. She later invites Zed and Nina to get to her dements, Nina to make it more bookshop-like and make her happy. And she gets a bloody modem rather than a modem that puts horrible shit on her computer every 5 minutes. Then Verona and her fetch come to a compromise.
In 20.A, Nomi goes on a road trip with her necromancy instructor to the Ordinary Family, where they make a trade. Yiyun shares how she was forsworn. They try and fail to stop Leonard and Josh from using abyssal practices on some captives. Nomi has a flashback and talks with Marisica.
In 20.4, Lucy and the dog tags have a shooting lesson and reminisce about John, and all of our hearts break a little bit more. Verona introduces Lucy and Avery to Juliet, Verona's new candidate for familiar. Booker and Alyssa arrive late and then immediately leave to help one of their friends. But they change their plans to stay a little bit longer. Lucy and Verona prep for the market and extend some invitations to the St. Victor's students.
In 20.5, the trio escorts Edith to collect her belongings from Matthew's house. They try to convince her to let them turn her into an Alcazar, but she says that she's going to a spirit surgeon instead, which is super legit and not sketchy at all. Edith agrees to let them be there for oversight. Lucy and Verona meet Nora. The trio goes to the festival. Lucy tries to reason with the St. Victor's kids to no avail.
And then in 20.6, Avery meets a finder that speaks Punjabi while going to get some presents, which confuses everyone and Google Translate. I know I certainly had to... I've forgotten how it was done. It was putting it in as English, translating to Punjabi. Oh, I don't remember. It was horrible.
I think that was it. You put it in like as English text, then translate it to Punjabi, and then try to translate it back. But even that didn't work. Someone finally did it and got a really good translation, but I'm not sure like what their eventual process was.
I think that's what that was, because that's what Elliot sent to me when I was reading it like 2 or 3 days later. And it was painful to do. She then returns to the party and has a nice time. Avery rescues Raquel after getting her to forswear herself and returns home to find an Aweradan.
What a great rescue.
I love it.
You can leave with me. You just have to forswear yourself first.
Exactly. That's pretty much it.
In 20.B, Freeman believes in the principle of learning by doing so much that he doesn't instruct his pupil on how to not lose so much of his self that he shits his pants. He finally accepts that maybe his pupil is more suited to a support role and is proud to goad a bunch of children into violently raiding a practitioner homestead.
Something about hearing your voice. Best person to read that part, for sure.
I'm not good at like reading things word for word.
No, it was just
It was
like
really good.
Hearing your voice say he shits his pants. Just just was really funny to me.
I think I have more swear words coming up in these summaries, so
Fantastic.
we're along for a ride.
In 20.C, we see that Avery definitely gets a lot from her dad, her dorkiness, and her love of love. We get inside Connor's head in this chapter and see his love for his family, particularly his wife, and his efforts to be a good dad. Sheridan tells them that Avery is a wizard, and the adults decide to drag Rowan into this mess and tell them the truth. 5 Kelly's aware, 2 to go.
20.7, Verona and Alpi travel through the ruins. Verona drew a diagram and gained some knowledge. She briefly meets with Charles and awakes to some other creepy men in her house. Yeah. Her dad is unwilling to veto the creeps, and she ends up calling CPS, but David is too busy to resolve it at the moment. Verona goes back to her domain and hangs out with Raquel. The trio meets up. Verona discovers most of Avery's family is aware, and they get some bad news from Nicolette.
Lucy and Verona meet with some of the Kennet others at Soot Sleeve's hold to debrief the St. Victor situation, and the Turtle Queen warns of an impending attack on the Bellinger family. The girls rush to help defend the Bellingers, who stubbornly refuse their support, with only Jillian and kind of Jen being willing to strategize with them. The Kenneteers arrive, and everything is thrown into chaos.
In 20.D, we learn that Jen has been fucked over by the patriarchy, but she's also... And she's also transformed into a bitter, judgmental person and an overprotective mom. So all the good things. She resents the opportunities that have been denied her, but actively tries to shield her daughter from those same opportunities. She takes action, refuses to acknowledge that her past love could actually be a decent person, and probably helps protect the compound from the Kenneteers. But we are left wondering what happened to her daughter.
In 20.E, we see what happened to Jen's daughter. Jillian seizes an opportunity and is turned into a horror by Helen in a fucked up ransom attempt. Monty is best gentleman and stays by Jillian's side until the least likely hero sacrifices himself for at least partially noble motives.
Yes. In 20.9, Nora becomes upset by Avery's refusal to tell her what secret is going to keep her from Thunder Bay for the foreseeable future / forever. Then we see Avery run all the errands. She sees the Kennet slide, visits the Garricks, who offer to take in Rowan, Sheridan, and Kelsey, strengthens ties with a bunch of markets, possibly visits Gilkey, and visits what remains of the Bellinger and Witt families.
I just want to say before I get into 20.F, the slide was sick. Good job to Snowdrop and Cherry Pop, because they nailed it.
Yeah, they nailed it.
I thought it was really fitting for this arc, because in Let Slip, we get a slip and slide. I came up with that. I think someone said it on the Discord, but I really liked it.
That's fantastic.
I did not think of that. But
Kira Lynn fucking sucks, yo. In her attempt to avoid a C- life, she becomes an F- person, conspiring to murder a woman, stuff abyssal junk into a classmate, and rip out her sense of empathy, mostly because she didn't like feeling bad about horrorizing someone. Thanks, Malia.
I like how Verona in that chapter is like, Kira, I see things in you, and like I really think that there is like a good person deep inside you. And Kira is like, well, we can't have that.
Yeah, fuck that. Get rid of it. Get it out of here.
In 20.Z, Juliet braves the dangers of Edith's Alcazar with Avery, Yoon, and Nomi before realizing that they've been sealed inside. The group manages to escape with the help of the Alcazar's representation of the body of Edith James, and Yoon confronts her allies over the direction things are going. At long last, the truce is broken, and a fight breaks out between the trio and the creepy, spirit-surgeried Kenneteers. The Alcazar's Edith James is murdered by Kira Lynn, Juliet is blown to pieces, Charles finally makes an appearance, and the Kenneteers flee onto the paths, leaving Kennet behind.
Man, that was a ride.
What an
wild ride. It's crazy. Like, where do you even start? I guess we could start at the very beginning. I hope you guys get that reference, because I'm going to be really sad if you don't. But
well, we could start at the beginning of my notes.
That works too.
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
So, I felt like one of the big purposes of this arc, like one of the things this arc is trying to do is, like, as we're preparing to fight Charles, a lot of this arc is the girls preparing to fight Charles, and maybe even take him out, ? The story kind of takes a step back and asks, like, why are we fighting Charles? And like, that seems like a really obvious question. And yet I feel like there was still a lot to explore there in terms of like fleshing out our understanding of like what Charles is trying to do, how that compares to what the girls are doing and what they want, how their like fundamental worldviews compare to each other. And, notably, we get multiple instances throughout this arc of Charles like giving the girls an out and saying that they don't have to fight him if they don't want to. Like, we get beats like Charles tells Verona that he doesn't mind her, and we get Charles working with Avery to save Raquel. And, you know, previously, not this arc, we saw that Charles and Verona actually work really well together. And I love these moments that force the girls and us as the reader to really like directly think about the question of like, why isn't there room to compromise here? Why does this have to come to a fight? And we have to kind of fully figure out, even if we were to set aside what the conspirators have done so far, like, is there any common ground? Is there any possibility that there is a non-bloody way forward? And I feel like fully exploring these questions is a great setup for where the story is going to go after this.
Yeah, and you definitely have to see how strong the resolve has to be, because we've seen in this arc the consequences of not working with him and how violent and terrible it can be, and they have to really be strong in their resolve that this is worth it to be going against him. But
see, I think an interesting thing here is that, at least to me, I've found that the way that Verona has been talking about the future to me, it reads like they will be working with him. Like, I kind of view part of the end game as not killing the judges. You know, they don't want to kill Charles. Like, at the end of the day, a lot of the stuff he's doing is good, and there is a compromise there. But it's a compromise between, you know, the lowest worker in Amazon and Jeff Bezos. So 99% of that compromise is going towards Bezos. So kind of the way I'm viewing moving into the end game of this is setting half of the factories on fire, and then having the ability to actually have a proper compromise, like with keeping the ability to keep the good things that, say, the Alabaster brings. Because as much as the Alabaster, yeah, she fucking sucks so hard.
She does.
She's so trash. But there is, like, she does look after innocence. I get, like, is that capital I innocence? I don't know. If it's capital I innocence, then it's different innocence. But she looks after people, and that's like, that's just good. And Charles unforswears people, and that's just good.
Yeah.
But
I think it's really interesting that you bring up that they might not kill Charles at the end of the day, because I think a lot of Pale has been the girls like trying to work within their moral code as much as they can, and like they want to accomplish something at the end of the day, but they're really invested in like doing things correctly along the way. And, you know, murdering a judge is how this story started. And in fact, for a lot of Pale, we didn't even know like what the conspirators wanted. We just knew that they killed the Carmine and were being kind of sketchy about it. And we were going after them like just on that information alone. And so for the girls to end the story by killing Charles, you know, might go against their own kind of internal ethics.
Yeah, I definitely do feel that it's been something that's been almost as like an unconscious thought amongst, I don't know if Avery's thought of it, but I think definitely Verona and Lucy have thought of, well, if we replace the Carmine with who? Because that was Lucy's goal well, I say at the start, but, you know, a couple arcs ago. And now she's kind of moved away from that. And I think part of that is realizing that there isn't really a good replacement. Like, if we look back at the contest, like, who in reality would have been good for the role in that contest? Because I can think of 1.5 people. And Charles just doesn't count as a full person. I'm sorry.
Well, and I love that in that contest to take the Carmine role, literally not a single person in that room actually wanted it. And so if the girls were to find a candidate, like, they would have to probably try to force someone into the role. And like, I can't really see them doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas if we say, okay, the system as it is completely fucked, but what the girls do, and this is actually something I've brought out of your notes, STF, is like, what the girls do is they don't tear down, they don't nuke the system if it's completely fucked. Yeah. They say, okay, the system's fucked. How do we fix it? Like, let's get in there, let's go down to those fundamentals, and let's do something to help it. And so, like, fixing the system is working within the current judges. Like, it's not saying, well, fuck these guys and just killing all of the judges, because that's what Charles would do. That's not what he would do. That's what he did. That's literally his plan.
What he did. Fully the conspirators' plan.
Yeah. So it's how do we work with him? And part of that, I think, has to be at least partially working to depower him a bit, and then kind of confronting him as a person almost, rather than as, you know, the judge. Yeah.
I love the focus here on like sort of the means and the means justifying the ends, and like why the girls don't want to go down certain paths. Because I think, I mean, a lot of, as we're kind of exploring, like, why are we fighting Charles? A lot of our argument against Charles and working with Charles is his means. Like, one of the questions that gets asked fairly early on in this arc is like, how much of this fight against Charles is avenging John? Or like, how much of it is avenging the people who died to the Hungry Choir and the damage that was done to Kennet? Like, a fight that's, I mean, this is obviously not all of the reason we're fighting Charles, but some of it is based on this history and essentially saying, like, you don't get to succeed after taking such terrible measures to get here. That's not how we do things.
Yeah.
I think also we see that, like, I mean, we get into a bunch of the Negateers' heads in this chapter, and we see the really, really horrible things they're willing to do. And part of Charles's methodology, I guess, like also is attractive to people who don't necessarily have the same goals or desires. Like Carolyn, for instance, seems to have a very like just burn it all down mentality, and same with Seth. A lot of these people, I mean, and then the horrible abyssal guy, names are hard, and all of them,
Leonard?
like, I don't think have these like altruistic, let's fix the practice motives, but just have like, watch me scream at people. and so it's really, it feels very, very obvious this chapter why Charles, or this arc, why Charles's way of doing things isn't worth it. But then you think about Musser and like how horrible the system is. And I could see why someone would be pushed to the edge, especially these Forsworn people or ex-Forsworn people, of let's just end it all and get what we can, because it's so awful the way that the system can treat people. But then, we literally see people turn into horrors and like murdered and rip the kindness out of themselves to be able to like do the thing. And I found it interesting that this was an arc very centered on the Kenneteers, but also centered on like the Christmas market and just like fun, beautiful things. I don't know.
Where's that bingo again? You guys mentioning Christmas? I think that was on there.
Wabo started it with this episode, so.
I mean, no one's surprised. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it was going to happen. We're just waiting on Disney next. The next thing.
The Disney story is almost the free space on the bingo chart.
I think so.
It's
Yeah.
gotta be one.
I'm sure we'll find something that relates somewhat. Oh my goodness.
I think with the Kenneteers, I have a lot of thoughts about the Kenneteers, but I mean, the first one is fucking Nomi. Just, what a trash person. I just
But she joins
could
their
not
side
stand
at
her.
the end, sort of.
She's still
Kind
a
of.
trash person.
No.
She's not as trash as Carolyn.
I don't know.
I mean-
I would say Carolyn actually gets her own practice and is interested in it. And Nomi expects an A+ life with F- effort. Because like Yiyun is like tutoring her and she says, here are these Bestaltians. You know, they're these really interesting. And Nomi's like, I don't know, dogs. Best what's now? Yeah, well, I'm just going to call them dogs. I don't really care about this enough to actually, remember what it's called or anything. And it's like, shut the fuck up, Nomi. Like, learn the goddamn words. It's not that hard.
Well,
like,
to me,
write
that
it
really
down.
is.
Sticky note. I don't know.
It strikes me that like I wouldn't want to be a necromancer either, or like a lot of these things. Like even the spirit surgery, how what's his face seems to be a decent teacher, even if he's creepy and all of that. Like
Yes.
It's so different from how the Kenneteers, they were just sort of like, here, children blossom in this beautiful environment where you can be anything. And this is like, oh no, you have to be this one type of thing, but also you weren't even raised to it. So lol.
Yeah, I remember
Get fucked.
commenting, I think, on this chapter when I was doing my live read that what Charles has done is essentially he's recreated the practitioner family system of just passing practices down the line, but he made it worse because he puts all the best people in the worst positions. Like Joshua, the kid who never wants to hurt anybody. Everyone's like, yeah, I'm not working with this fucking creep. You can do it, you loser. And he's just like, oh, okay, guys, I guess I'll go do that. And then he has to become a Bedlamite Abyssal and like host to the power of madness in him. And that seems fucking horrible. Like,
We love Charles destroying the system by like creating something that's like almost the system, but like slightly worse.
yeah, it's so horrible. And like, I don't know, there's a lot of thoughts. And there was an interesting part where they talked about like, oh, now Joshua gets off scot-free now that he's like given up his innocence. I mean, clearly all of these people are a lot better people than I am, because I would be very tempted in that story to just walk up to that kid at school and punch him and just be like, and he's there like, what did I do? And it's like, I know what you did. I don't give a fuck if you don't know what you did.
Well, and it's interesting how little accountability there is in Charles's new system. Like,
Exactly.
I feel like Charles as a whole has like a very black and white perception of the world. Like he has the whole thing where it's like, if there's forswearing, then the world is bad, period, done, end of story. So he's taken this very legitimate problem, which is the existence of forswearing, as this very like disproportionate consequence of lying, and replaced that with just a complete lack of accountability. Like, because like that's the opposite of, I suppose, being there being a really harsh punishment. And like, it's very true that forswearing does not help the forsworn person be better. It just like creates endless suffering. But that's also like not a reason to unleash people like Helen and Leonard on the world with like zero consequences for their actions.
I feel like taking away all that accountability explains a lot why I think like Nomi is being kind of shitty, and why a lot of the Negateers, because they don't really have that incentive. Like they get a jail out of free card. They don't have to learn things that well. They don't have to really put all their in, like they're all into it. They can be crappy. I do have a question for y'all. Who do you think are the best out of the Negateers?
None of them.
Like best. I know that they're not good, but I'm saying, like, if you had to pick someone out of them, because we know that they're all trash people, but if you just had to pick one that was like less bad than the other ones, is there one you can pick?
I don't even think Josh is a bad person, personally, just because, like, okay, he did some bad things, but he only chose that mentor in the first place, like, explicitly because he was worried about the other kids having that mentor. Like, he wanted to protect the other kids, and he wanted to, like, protect younger people. And, like, he ended up with this, like, terrible practice. But, like, every time we see him, he just looks like he's really not having a good time with this practice and doesn't. And, I feel like it's no coincidence that he is the first one to pull the escape rope and go back to innocence, because he, like, obviously is really torn up about the harm that he's causing and decides that he can't do it anymore. And his only option is to either go along with Leonard or get out. It's because it's not like he can join the Kenneteers, because if he did that, like, the first thing that would happen is he would be, voted out of his awakening.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think I can.
What do you
think, Kippos?
I think when it comes to, like, is any of them better than the others? I think there's an old, like, I'm not a nice person. So there's an old kind of commentary on social nature, which is like, if you have one Nazi sitting at a table and 10 other people sitting at that table, then you've got a table with 11 Nazis. And what Joshua does is he says, well, fuck this. Partially because he's been awfully shit upon and treated horribly by the other Nazis at the table. But he gets up from the table and walks away, and now there are 10 Nazis at the table. And that's how I kind of view the Negateers, is that, like, as long as they are sitting there and not just, like, being okay with, but actively supporting the other members in their group, like Helen, who is, quite honestly, just the worst fucking practice I've ever goddamn seen. Intentionally horrifying others. It's rough. Like, as long as they're all sitting there at that table, then they are complicit in everything that they do. Like, Kira Lynn is not a better person for saying, Seth and Griff, I don't remember his name. Griff are, like, both basically pedos. I don't know, there's an incredibly horrible dynamic there. As anyone who has ever taught anyone anything knows, like, you just don't look at your students like that. Like, nasty.
Like a power imbalance, and it's just...
It's even worse here. It's like the most fundamental power imbalance that, like, they can just rip away all of their knowledge of all this at any time and say, yeah, they're not worthy. Yeah, Carolyn won't sleep with Griff, therefore, get out of him. Get out of her. Get out. And kind of all of them there they're okay with it enough that they're not commenting on it. Well, if they are commenting, that's kind of all they're doing. Like, Yian, at the end of the arc, she does walk away and refuses to be a part of the conflict. And that's fantastic. And I'm very glad that she got there. But she wasn't supporting Helen going in and horrifying a bunch of kids with Seth. But she didn't stop it. She didn't do anything about it. She was just sitting on the sidelines and going, that's naughty. No, thank you. Please don't. And she didn't do anything about it. And now, yeah, she's removing herself, but is she actually going to do anything to work against the bad parts of her group? Because
technically, I think Yiyun wasn't actually part of the meeting where they decided to horrified the children. Nomi was, and Nomi like didn't tell Yoon until later. But I think that the point is still there that like that wasn't the first horrifying thing that the Kenneteers did. You have to slip at least one in. It wasn't the worst. Like they had done bad things before, that group. And there's definitely the moment where the Witt family is attacked, and I think it's Leonard suggests like, oh, we should just burn down the building. And, you know, like whether or not Yoon was comfortable with that, like they all still went along with it. I think with the kids, I feel a little better about that, just because like they are children in this very manipulative power dynamic where, I mean, Nomi feels like even just hesitation when they were talking about horrifying Jillian was enough that they then like tried to trap them inside Edith's Alcazar. So I think all of the kids are feeling that pressure of like anything less than enthusiastic agreement can get you kicked out of the group, your memories stripped from you. And like some of them, like magic is an escape. Like they have bad home lives or like bad lives outside of I mean, we saw for the Kenneteers, like how much the practice helped them and changed their lives. And so I think that there are very real stakes for these kids if they don't go along with what they're told. And so I don't know. I feel like I have some sympathy for them, even though they are obviously contributing to such terrible things.
Yeah, I think there's like definitely a line where Carolyn, for instance, has crossed it. But thinking about like Adrian earlier on, he isn't a go-getter and he isn't on the front lines and he doesn't want to do that. But when he finds something that he can do and some way that he can contribute, he's like praised for that. He really wants to fit in and he really wants to be a part of something, just not like out there in front. And I'm reminded of, so both him kind of finding a groove with being able to be support staff, and like I think Harry or someone arguing with Lucy or someone at some point about like how that's a practitioner family and practitioner families are bad because they do XYZ. And it's like, oh yes, you've been told this. You don't fully have the full context of what that means and who these people are. But with the information that you have, it's a little more understandable. And I think that probably not Lucy, but I could see early story Avery and Verona like following a similar path in a similar circumstance. So I don't think that these people are all necessarily just like completely awful, but hopefully with what they did to Edith and with what Yi-yoon says when she leaves, more of them will, like, it becomes less excusable the more shit goes on.
Right. I love how you're sort of presenting the Kenneteers as like early story Kenneteers of like, they barely know anything about the world. They're trying to do these really big sort of idealistic things, and everyone around them is saying like, no, you're being manipulated by evil others, and like you don't actually understand what you're talking about. So we're just seeing the Kenneteers on the opposite side of all of the arguments that they had at the beginning of the story.
Yeah, that's definitely that's definitely part of it. I think maybe a big difference in that is I don't think the Kenneteers, in the first 13 arcs were like, okay, we've got someone vulnerable right here. Let's fucking kill them. Let's get them out of here. You know what? We can carve them up. We'll use their bones and stab someone. That'll be sick. That'll be so good.
Carolyn's definitely a psychopath. Yeah.
Well, she's
now.
Not until she.
It'd be interesting to see if they show what, I guess, like Carolyn and all them, like their reaction once they, I guess, undo the surgery thing and get their empathy and all that back. I don't know if they probably won't show that, but it'd be interesting.
It would be. I think she's like, from Carolyn's perspective, she wants to kill Edith, right? In 20.f. I forgot what I put in 20.f. She actively wants to, and then she's like, well, I'm probably going to hesitate, or I'm going to be a little bitch about it. So I'm just going to cut that out. Just get rid of that part of myself.
Cut the bitch out.
Just cut that little bitch out. And then, and then I'll just stab her. It'll be easy. So I think like when she comes back down out of that state, I think there will be a part of her that is like, yeah, I went into this. That's what I wanted to do. Man, I did it. That's sick. Go me. Like similar to Matthew. I was going to say early story Matthew, but like pre-story Matthew when, like from Edith's interlude in something ages ago, like 2 years ago or something. I don't remember. It's a long story. Where he like goes to those other practitioners and he's carved out all of the mercy and like and empathy out of himself so he can beat the absolute fucking shit out of them. And he doesn't he feels like a little bad afterwards. He's like, wow, I went really far. But at the same time, he was like, yeah, that was the plan. Sure did plan to kick the shit out of him, and I did it. Go me. And I really see Carolyn like kind of doing the same thing of like, yeah, she's kind of accepted it. Like she's okay with what she's doing here. She just doesn't think she'll be able to pull the trigger. So
Carolyn is sad to me because I kind of see her. I mean, she's this character who's like very angry at the world. And part of it sort of mirrors Verona's family situation where, I mean, her parents, they're not Brett, but you can see that she's like, she's unhappy with her home situation. Somewhat like Lucy, she's like mad at the worlds for not like, I mean, I feel like Lucy's anger at the world is a lot more understandable to me than Carolyn's, but like I can at least understand the perspective of like, she feels like no one around her is trying. And like, you can see these traits that she has that kind of mirrors the Kenneteers, but instead of like having these mentors who kind of helped shape her into someone who is able to like direct that and like grow through it. Well, obviously Liz and Marissa are leaning into her trauma and her like negative worldviews instead and like encouraging that and encouraging all of the Negeteers down like the most toxic path that they could take. And so it's kind of no surprise that they end up being like super evil.
Yeah. I feel like I don't think that, you know, the Kenneteers would still be quite doing the same thing even if they were being pushed down that path. But they are, I mean, the Negeteers are having to do a lot of very violent, very like horrible things, and they're being pushed very strongly, pressured very strongly. But I mean, yeah, and again by people who are forsworn, so not the best.
Yeah, I think to me, I really like the perspective that was raised like super early in whatever this podcast we're doing is called, like Pact Reflections, I think. I don't know. But by those two people that run this show, or I don't know their names. Here, so, they're not really important.
You can call it whatever we want.
They don't exist anymore. It's fine.
So on the Pactile Refractories, early on in this podcast, talking about like forswearance as jail, you know, as the kind of punitive system in that regards. And what Charles does is he comes along with a big ball on a chain and he knocks down all of the jail doors and he's like, you're all, go on. Good luck. Join me. But if you don't, that's cool. And, you know, because obviously like the prison system is fucked, kind of everywhere. And there are a lot of people that I'm trying to think of a word that's not deserved, because I don't think anybody deserves to be in like a punitive like jail, like forswearing, but people that reasonably should be kept away from other people so they don't harm them until they're at the point where they don't harm anybody anymore. Like Helen, like Seth, like Griff, like Leonard, like all of these people were in jail cells, and Charles came down and knocked down the doors and let everyone out. And Yeon got out as well. And that's awesome. Like, she never deserved to be in there. Like, she didn't need any of this. She was kind of very unjustly, and I say that, and none of them, it's unjust for all of them to be in the punitive system in the first place, but especially Yeon, who is essentially an innocent that's, you know, wrongly tried. And Charles has let them all out. And yeah, Yeon can come out and be like, oh, thank God. I have never done anything wrong in my life, except all of the things that I did wrong before I had a daughter. But I turned over a new leaf. So I am ready to come out into the world and do good. And like Seth and Griff and Leonard are like, oh, thank God. I definitely didn't deserve to be in there. I'm going to come out into the world. I'm going to do so much evil. Oh, so much evil. It's going to be awesome. I'm so excited. Seth's like, I'm going to abuse some kids. Just find me a child and I will groom the shit out of that child.
Yeah, it's creepy as hell.
And it's nasty. And Leonard's like, I'm just going to murder some people.
I love how much of this arc is just like fully refuting Charles's entire worldview. Like we get fairly early on, Edith is like, oh yeah, Charles, like he just believes people are good and you just need to suffer a lot and then you'll become not good. Which, first of all, is kind of an interesting perspective from someone who does hate the prison system so much that he just believes that people just need to suffer until they become good. But I mean, obviously that's like a dumb idea. And the arc just like, we see that throughout the whole arc. I mean, but primarily, like, yes, some of the ex-Forsworn are just like awful people. And it's clear that like their Forswearing didn't fix that at all. They still suck. They just now suck without consequences. Thank you, Charles.
Good job, Charles.
Even other characters, like I loved, the focus on the BSW this arc, because she's obviously suffered a lot and, you know, continues to suffer. And for a while, like she came out of that suffering, like wanting to steal Jillian's body, right? Like she was like, my body sucks. I think I'm just going to go like murder someone else and steal their body. But then she gets to this place near the end of the arc where she's talking to Jillian after she's been horrified. And she's like, yeah, people change. And she believes in Kennet and its mission now. And she is there for Jillian, even though she still doesn't like her. And she didn't get to this better place because of the suffering that she had endured. She got there in spite of it. And because she had this community through Kennet, because the girls helped her, because Nicolette took her under her wing, like it wasn't the suffering that got her to be better. The suffering made her bitter. That the bitter street witch, I just made that. Suffering made her bitter.
Oh, damn.
And then it was the community that helped her out of it. And like, there's just so many examples of that throughout the arc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cannot agree more that, Charles sucks. But yeah, the arc
Charles doesn't fit into Charles's worldview.
No, Charles is a good person, STF. He's good now. he was bad before, but now he's good. I just don't think you're understanding the story. Arc 1 Charles he was a little bad, and then bad stuff kept on happening. And then by the time of Arc 13,
so good.
Yeah, now he's a perfect
little
angel.
Cinnamon roll.
Exactly.
He's great.
So now you get the story. Exactly.
But he didn't even get to where he is because he suffered. He's another example of someone who got to where he is because his community supported him. Like Edith helped him create the Hungry Choir. He couldn't have done that without her. Marissa like stepped in and basically planned the entire thing where he took the Carmine seat. And even now he's relying heavily on the other judges as his entire support system. So like he's gotten so much help and he still has this mindset of like, oh, you just need to have hardship and isolation and pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And it's funny because, like, that's not even what he did.
I think there is another part of it as well, though, that, like, Marissa and Edith did suffer. So I think he is, like, partially for, like, community, but only a community of people that have really been hurt.
So you can ride off the backs of the other people that suffer.
Yeah.
And they can lift you up. And,
And you can just all be wonderful, perfect angels together, like Marissa and Edith and himself. And Liz.
All of our favorite people.
Favorites. Just feels bad to say, even joking. It feels bad.
Just make it really clear. We're kidding.
Yeah.
But
there's actually, there's like a really interesting, like, historical, like, perspective that I have found quite a while ago when I was thinking, well, I don't know. I don't remember. The past is the past, and I brought it up in a live read at some point. You can control F Athens or Athenian in there, and you'll find it. But so, like, 2,000 years ago, I don't remember. At some point in the past, Athens of Greece had like wide spread slavery. Anyone that was worth anything had a slave or two. It was horrible. And then Athens was having these big reforms, and they were like, wow, fuck, this slavery is horrible. I can't believe we're doing this to our own people. Any Athenian-born slave, you're all good. You're fine. Anybody that's, we'll free all you. Anybody that's outside of that, though, no, you guys are good. Well, are we going to clean our own houses? Don't be ridiculous. And so they freed all of the Athenian slaves, like, anybody kind of like in their ethnic and cultural group they freed. And they kept slaves from literally everybody everywhere else. Like, they clearly didn't think slavery was wrong. And I feel like that's the same with Charles and the Forsworn / others, because Charles doesn't give a fuck about others. Like, it's like there is a hint in there that, like, oh, he thinks they're all right, but he's building a practitioner community. He is building just practitioner things to stop forswearing. And, like, looking back at the historical example, yeah, having Athenian slaves was bad, but so was having any slave. Like, just bringing yourself up, like the ex-forsworn, bringing themselves up out of slavery, out of being forsworn into, like, being full functional members of society, and then they get their own slaves. And that's good. That's a strict good, actually, that they get slaves now, because they deserve it. And really, that's kind of how I just kind of thought of it while doing a live read, and I just feel like it really does kind of track that he's like, yeah, all of these, I'm going to say other people, but all of these others are suffering. You know what? Some of the people that I kind of relate to are suffering, and let's pull them out. And everybody else,
it's too hard. And fuck them.
Like, strictly speaking, just looking at the Garricks, they are causing kind of harm to more individuals than any group that Charles went after. Because he talked about, like, there's like 6 people that are keeping Forsworn around here, and it's fucked, and I'm going to go get them. But then, like, the Garricks have, like, this fucking storehouse full of, like, old shit. I don't know, I was going to say old, like, somethings, but it's lost, so probably, like, someone in a coaster. Like, all of these others that have been bound into random junk, and just keeping it in a warehouse. And that's not an issue. That's whatever. They'll be right. But that's fucking horrible.
Yeah.
Like,
that's fucking terrible.
I don't want to go like utilitarian and be like, no, well, they're suffering more because it's 20 of them and there's only one. No, like, but there are more of them that are, like, bound and kind of stuck in these horrible, horrible systems. And Charles is like, you'll be right. Oh, I don't know. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, other. I don't really give a fuck.
No, you've got to understand, forswearing is bad because it happened to him.
No, yeah. I mean, that's... Yeah.
Seth is the same way, where he's, like, so happy to participate in the Bellinger family until they discarded him, and now the Bellinger family is, like, rotten because they were mean to Seth, specifically.
Yeah.
Even though he was going to pretty much do the same thing to Nicolette if he got a chance.
Yeah.
He's just...
Ugh.
And he was forsworn for, like, such a short amount of time compared to everybody else. And the way he talks about it, I feel like it's just kind of funny to me, because I'm sure it was absolutely horrible, but he acts like it was, I don't know, just like the worst, most, I don't know, just the amount of time in comparison to some of the other people.
Like, not even the amount of time only, because, like, he was in the BHI and strictly, like, had, like, 2 or 3 practitioners that had set up shit to help him out. Like, Ian is in her cage, and she gets to go to the bathroom at night only, and spends 24 hours listening to her daughter crying. And Seth he's in the room and he gets TV, but sometimes it's not that good.
Sometimes the channels just come on, and
sometimes it's a bit, like, it's still horrible, sure, but, like, he acts like he's same as Charles. Like they both act like the worst thing that could ever happen to literally anybody ever happened to us. We are so hard done by.
Yeah, and they had a pretty damn good forsworn,
And then, like, Jillian is over here like, I have seen infinity, and it scarred me forever. This is horrible.
Yeah. Like, my eyes shape looks different. My body looks just like
my body has become scarred. All curvy in not a positive way.
Not a positive way.
All the bones are curvy, and that's permanent now. Cool.
Yeah. So thanks.
Charles is like, yeah, but you weren't forsworn, so I don't know what you're complaining about there.
You didn't get moldy beer.
Oh.
The sad thing is, I think that Charles could look at Seth and how shit Seth is and say, like, oh, it's because his forswearing wasn't as bad as Yuyun's, and if he had just suffered more, I bet he'd be a better person. It's hard to refute his worldview, because anyone who suffered and didn't then become a good person, you could just argue that they didn't suffer enough.
Yeah, that's painful, but it feels accurate.
Some people can just twist anything away around the way that they want to if it doesn't fit their worldview, and that's Charles. Just twists everything up. I do have to say, like, sorry, this is very random, but we can go back to, but just, like, the word horrifying, just to describe horrifying someone, I mean, it's not funny, but it kind of is funny to me. It's just because I can see you talking to someone and be like, oh my gosh, you'll never believe what happened. Like, Jane was horrified, and be like, well, horrified by what? Like, what happened to her? She was horrified. Okay, wait, what do you mean? You need to be more specific. She was horrified. It's the worst. It's really funny.
That's, yeah.
But it is terrible.
But think of all the jokes that stem from it.
Yeah.
That makes it all worthwhile.
Yes, exactly.
You might say that there's an infinite amount. No.
Oh,
no, sorry. I'm sorry.
You won't say that.
Too much. Too far. Okay. Sorry, guys.
Oh, that's too good. Ooh.
Okay. Excuse me.
I had something I wanted to say about Charles while looking at STF's notes, but I wasn't really sure where to fit it in. So just, really fast. Like, you'd mentioned the lack of accountability in Charles's system. And it just, like, Wildbow is really good at this. And I don't know how much of it is in his brain and how much of it he just realizes exists. For instance, like, I was doing notes or recap summaries from my mom about Arc 5, and Lucy at one point explicitly is like, my mom says I'm really good at eavesdropping, and I'm like, it was right there this whole time. And so with Charles, it's the accountability. Charles has never, at least to me, never sufficiently taken responsibility for the Hungry Choir and for the things he did. It was always, oh, I was around bad people, and that's why bad things happened when I was there. And it's not, and it's like the Carmine did this, and like other people and situations did this, and like never, yes, I did this thing and it was bad. And so it makes a lot of sense given that he believes he suffered so badly, and given that he like doesn't take any accountability for anything, that he's trying to create a system where there is no accountability and everyone suffers.
I loved especially this arc. Charles has a line at like the very end of 20.z where he looks at like Edith's dead body and he's like, you, Edith, John, the girls, what a terrible thing it is to be my friend. As if he didn't actively do that to all
like
of
you,
them.
like, go fuck yourself, dude.
Charles?
Like, yes, it does suck.
Like,
when you try to murder people.
Just
Yeah,
passively.
that is pretty terrible, Charles. That's you.
No, the universe just does mean things to Charles' friends. It's probably because he was
my
forsworn,
God.
I reckon. That must be it. It can't be.
I had to put down the chapter when he said that. I was like, Charles, how dare you?
You know, it's like I used to kind of like the name Charles. And, you know, yeah, thanks a lot, Wildbow. Certain names, just like, you know, when I first started reading about the Kenneteers, I was like, oh, Kira Lynn, that's kind of a nice name.
It's such a cute name.
Oh,
Yeah. No,
not anymore.
not anymore. I mean, it's not as well. Yeah, Charles is more ruined, I'd say. But anyway,
Sometimes someone comes along and they just ruin a name for you.
just ruined a name, and yeah, just a moment of silence.
Just a moment of silence for all those ruined names.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Did we have more we wanted to say about Charles, or did we want to talk about some of the other points I'm seeing on our doc?
I feel like we'll swing back to Charles, but
we definitely
We will.
I did just want to say that I really liked, one of the things I liked getting clarity on this arc is one of like the fundamental differences between Charles's worldview and the Kenneteers' worldview and their plans is like essentially boils down to the difference between like constructive and destructive change. So basically Charles has this view that's echoed by Kira when she's arguing with Verona late in this arc that, you know, if the foundation is cracked, like we simply cannot build on it. So we need to just blow everything up and start over. And like, you can't just prune the bad. You have to like rip it up by the roots or the poisonous plant is just going to grow back. Right. And then the Kenneteers are like, that seems a little intense. You can work with the cracked foundation. You can work, like it's possible to build a house when the ground is slanted. Like you can figure out ways around that. And like, there are good eggs and bad families, and there are good traits and bad people. And there are ways to help people with bad traits, like cultivate their better nature. And to be fair, like one of the things the girls are called out on in this arc by the Kenneteers is that like they're not trying to fix everything. They're, you know, Kierlin points out that they're not really that pressed about why continuing to lead the Bellingers. Like they don't love that he's doing that, but they're also like not going to take him out or anything. Like their change, it's radical, but it's localized and it's incremental, and they're very much working with and within the system that already exists, rather than flipping the table. And that, I think that is like the big reason why they could never work with Charles, because they just fundamentally think such different things about what change looks like and what's worth pursuing and what isn't.
Yeah, and I do think that's why kind of they do have to fight with Charles, even though kind of like, you know, my view of what the end game is Charles is still in power and the Sable, Alabaster, and Aurum are still, you know, doing their thing, is that they do have this like very fundamental disagreement that they have to like take Charles out of the ability to destroy their world so that they can then work with him to build a better one. But unfortunately, like if they compromised at the moment, their compromise is, okay, you girls go and sit in the corner. I'm going to just tear up the entire house. And we'll see what happens afterwards, you know.
He has no plan. Like there's nothing I mean, okay, he has a plan, but there's nothing constructive about the plan. Like he's like, granted, I don't think he thought that he would survive this long. Like he said a couple times, he's like, oh yeah, I really thought they'd kill me by now, but like here I am. I guess I'll keep going. So I guess it makes sense that he wouldn't necessarily have thought this through to like the rebuilding phase. Like I think he thought that he would be gone by then and like other people would handle that. But like even Seth is like, yeah, at the end of this, like, I don't know, maybe Charles will like kill all of us because we suck, and then the Alabaster will choose new leaders. And even Kierlin is like, yeah, no, nothing good is going to come out of this. I just want to burn everything to the ground. So like there's nothing constructive at the end of the day. It's just like, well, let's let the dust settle, destroy everything, and hope that what grows out of that is good. And there's no sense of direction.
No.
Yeah.
There's no seeds being planted. It's just, let's trash it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Charles wants like a system where bad people can still do bad things and people can still abuse the system. And the girls are working towards something where you can't abuse the system, because people will always get into the system. And if somebody has the ability to abuse it, you know, they might, in a moment of weakness, any good person can just be like, well, fuck this, and just abuse the system, forswear somebody, as an example, but obviously not that if Charles wins. But, you know, they could still not forswear somebody, but bind them in a circle and drain their power. You know, they could still take the fucking Musa route and make someone just shit out all of their knowledge and then eat it. That's still totally fine in Charles's world. Like, that still works in Charles's world. You still have these systems that are exploitable. And an exploitable system will be exploited. That's just how that works.
But see, that adds nuance to the conversation. And I feel like the appeal of what Charles is doing is that he has this very simple goal and this very simple message. It's very black and white. And I think that's very appealing to people because they don't have to think about, like, you know, all of those things that you just said of just like, okay, well, how do we actually make this system like work so no one can abuse it? He's like, no, forswearing is bad and we're going to get rid of it. It's a 2-sentence motto. Like, let's just go for it.
Yeah.
And I think it makes it very easy to be sucked into that because you can look at any other plan and just say, well, if there's forswearing at the end of the day, you're not going far enough, period.
Yeah.
And actually, one thing that I did think was really, really fucking interesting was that he kind of implicitly leveraged forswearing against Verona in chapter. Oh God, let me go look at our chapter summaries. There's a lot of chapters in here.
It's going to take a few minutes to read through that.
In the one where Verona goes to the Abyss. I don't fucking remember where that is. I can't see. Yeah, but that's fine. When she goes to the Abyss,
where they go through the Reubens. Oh, wait, that's the Reubens.
Through Reubens. I don't know anybody by that name.
Alpi.
Yes, that's the one. Oh, Ruins. I thought you said Reubens. I was like, I don't know any like that. My bad. Yeah, so in 20.7, you know, when Charles turns up and he's like, hey, are you doing something that's mean to me? And she's like, I don't know, figure it out, dickhead. But he's like, you know, like, take a step back, swear oaths that you will do nothing. And it's like implicit in the swear oaths that you'll do nothing is, or I'll fucking forswear you. Because otherwise, what, he's going to gainsay them? Like, okay, cool, they gainsayed for 2 days for breaking an oath. Sick. 2 days later, they come back and they kick his ass, like, having broken the oath.
Point.
Like, or is he going to forswear them and then, have them come along and have him be like, yeah, no, I'll unforswear you. That's fine. You just broke the oath that I forced you to say. I totally wasn't planning to hold up this forswearing. So, and it definitely forswearing someone doesn't undermine my position at all. But like, he doesn't have to then go through with it because he, as someone in a position of power, utilizes an implicit threat of like, you can join with me, just swear all of these things. And we know what swearing things means. It means do it or fucking suffer. Like, and it's so nasty. Just that one, like, ugh. When I was reading that, I was like, that's a threat of forswearance. And I don't think that you would let them come back from that. I think you would make them be forsworn. Because otherwise, why would you even say it? So, that was pretty gross.
Such a hypocritical bastard.
So, yeah. It was like, I think that's at least as far as I was aware, that's the first time that he's just been like, implicitly, saying that he will forswear somebody. Because and the nastiest part is, it's so hypocritical. It's so against what he stands for. But he still fucking friended it, so, Charles the bastard.
Such a dickhead.
This is why I like this arc so much. We got to really cement that Charles is a terrible hypocrite. And now, like, as we're going into the next arcs, as we, like, go after Charles, we'll feel really good about it.
Yeah, there's no moral ambiguity about going after Charles, of course. He's only evil.
He's, like, a really annoying kind of evil, too.
Like, he really is.
He thinks he's right, and he's, like, kind of... Like you were saying with like, oh, this just happens to my friends. I guess it's so sad. I'm like, at least own that you're being a complete evil fuckface,
like my poor friends like John. I can't quite remember what happened to him, but I think something bad happened to him.
Such a bummer.
What a shame. The universe so really fucked him over.
Yeah. Oh, man. What a person.
What a fuckwit.
What a fuckwit.
Just, it hurts. Sometimes reading this story, it really does hurt because you get to something like that and you're like, you piece of slimy shit. What do you fucking think you're doing?
I love that this is just, like just shitting on Charles.
I know, that's the thing. It's so hard to move on to any other topic because it's just like
he really sucks.
We're all so mad.
We're all just
Let's look for something. Oh, Gillette. There we go. Gillette, new best Kenneteer, so good. So good. I recently watched All Packed Up 1.5, and they put Gillette before that was her name. They put her in S tier, and that's just perfection. Like they just knew it. They nailed it. It was like a year ago or so. I don't know. I think it was Nick Chris maybe. But they knew what was happening. They knew Gillette was an S tier character, and I'm proud of them having this.
Now, if they just also put Verona in S tier, they would have been correct.
No. Look, Gillette was already there. It's good enough. Don't worry about it.
I'm still mad. It's been months.
Look, I was annoyed that they didn't put Solomon into either S or F for Forsworn because that was my big issue when I watched that the other day. Like, there's no middle ground. Like the dude created the seal. He's either S tier or he's F for Forsworn. Like I don't know.
Yeah. Gillette getting inside her head was fun, and I have to keep reminding myself that she like is kind of a copy of Verona because like she was very Verona but different, and so like reminding myself, oh, these two people look the same, and these two people like have so much of the sameness. But then you remember, Gillette liked school. Gillette like was formed in a way that was different from Verona's personality, and just seeing the way they are together, but then the way she is with Avery was so fucking funny and like so good. And seeing how Gillette is a complete and total person who's super curious about the things she's curious about, seeing her interact with Guillemette and Melissa, and remembering that like Melissa and Verona could kind of be good friends, but Verona was too freaked out by that nightmare, and being like, oh, like this is a friendship I really want to see. I just, Yeah, it's weird reading back through these notes because there's so many just like gloriously fun things in this arc. You know, Avery like with all of her fame, and then the promenade, and like the concerts, and the just the fun wacky shit that happens in this chapter. The whole like Lucy and the dog tags, and then there's like Kira Lynn and Nora and Avery maybe like gonna break up, and Juliet getting like bashed to pieces, and this is a fucking wild chapter arc.
It is kind of wild that like we started this off with like Avery and all them like basically solving the promenade and how huge that was. And
not as huge as Gillette's boobs. Giselle's boobs? I don't remember her name.
Gillette.
Gillette, I don't fucking know.
It's okay. I mean, yeah, just well, yeah.
Sorry,
the boobs
continue,
and
please.
just
There were so many heartwarming moments this arc, like the entire Connor interlude. Every second of that,
so
like just
cute.
watching them like be like a good couple and like take care of their kids
so
and
sweet.
be really good parents, like just beautiful.
And I like that they talked about how it wasn't just always sunshine and rainbows, and he kind of was thinking about how they had some really hard times where they almost split up and had to work through a bunch of things. I mean, which makes sense. I mean, with all those kids, and even if you don't have all those kids, like just marriage and all that, it's hard. So
I did like as well that like he clearly wasn't a perfect person, and we've seen it so often throughout the story that he's not a perfect person. Like when they're talking about like, oh well, who's going to keep on working when we have kids? And Kelsey is like, well, it's me, obviously. And he's like, oh well, I think I should be the one who's working. And she's like, I have gotten a promotion, like yada yada. I'm doing so much more, etc. And he's like, no, I still think it should be me. And then she's like, yeah, but you're being like, it's not even like you're being horribly patriarchal. Like, it's saying like, you're being horribly patriarchal. And that sets a bad example for our kids. And he's like, oh shit, no, you are right. Oh, it's going to set a bad example for the kids. That's really what's got it here. You know, the fact that I was being like this horrible, like, you know, not being horrible, but like being very like, patriarchy minded. I'm like very much thinking like I have to be the one that's doing everything for the family. Like that, you know, like that wasn't the part of it that he was like, oh, I should stop doing that. I should accept that my wife has this really high paying job and she's doing really great, and I like teaching and yada yada. But no, that's not what it was. Just setting an example, and it's like, god damn it, dude, like so fucking close, so close.
Yeah, I mean, at least he's trying. You know?
Yeah,
I mean,
that was something that definitely came through. Is you know, he's trying and he fucks up, but he doesn't fuck up. Sometimes that sounds harsher than I mean it to be. He does good things at least too.
And I feel like if you're recognizing that you're fucking up and you're trying to be better, as I know, like just the world and patriarch and everything, it's hard for women and men. Like women are told we're supposed to be a certain way and men are told they're supposed to be a certain way. And it can be hard to break out of those molds. So at least he's trying.
At least,
you know, some people don't even try. So not that that's an excuse, but
no, but he's doing good, but with issues. And I really liked that chapter really kind of showed that, like he's doing good, but there are some little things in the background there.
There are some things that could be a lot better, but
yeah. Well, we've already seen Connor change so much throughout the course of the story in terms of at the beginning being like, oh, Connor fucking sucks, and he's like a homophobe, and he just like, you know, is like all these things, and he's really like sexist, and like, yeah, he hasn't transformed into the perfect person, but I think, you know, accepting, okay, I am going to be the homeschool parent, and accepting, okay, my wife is going to move, and like I'm obsessed with her, but she's going to like not physically be in my life very often anymore. Like those are really hard things for him. And he's not, he doesn't always have the perfect mindset, but he is like growing and learning so much. And it's so like lovely how much Avery is helping him learn and helping him grow. because like I said, they're really similar, but also she's in such a different situation than Connor has ever been in his life as like a white cis straight man. And like being able to see this person that he like really dearly loves, who is so different, is just, I don't know, it makes me really happy and hopeful, because at the beginning of this story it seemed like we had one good parent and in amongst the Kenneteers, and now I think we have arguably 4, which is nice.
Yeah. I think, there was definitely a wake-up call earlier in the story for Sylvia to be like, bitch, come parent your goddamn daughter. Like, for fuck's sake, just come and do it. And she's like, no, I guess I haven't really been, parenting my daughter at all. No, I suppose I'll come back and do that. And, and she's doing pretty good.
It's like, now that she's sort of an adult and I can actually talk to her, I guess I'll do it.
Yeah, in the beginning, I remember just being so mad, like, you fucking suck, because you're just but she's better.
I just love Wildbow's explorations of just like imperfect parenting and how like parents, especially with the Kellys, how parents can be like good, well-meaning people and still make mistakes, and to have that be okay. And I especially love how the Kellys have really stepped it up since they became aware and have really become really good parents to Avery. And it just shows that like, people are capable of that kind of change, and they're capable of stepping up and like being good parents, even if they've, don't have the best track record necessarily.
Yeah. I don't remember if if it was on a recording or if it was on a meeting, but it might have been one of our doof meetings. But I remember talking to Matt and him basically saying that, parenting is basically just trying to traumatize your children the least amount possible. Or something
that
like
sentence started somewhere, and I'm glad it went the way that it did.
Yes. Which it's hard because you just don't know what the fuck you're doing. But you're doing your best.
I think in this case, Avery's the one traumatizing her parents.
Yeah. Actually, something I did want to bring up with Avery is that when she looks back at, I haven't listened to the actual podcast. Like, I'm catching up, okay? I'm up to arc 17. Elliot, if you're going to jump in my DMs about this, shut the fuck up. I'm going to catch up, okay? I'm not going to goddamn skip your podcast. I enjoy it.
She's a busy woman, damn it.
I am busy, but I am enjoying it, and I will not skip. So every couple of weeks, he's like, no, just skip to the current episode. It's fine. I'm like, fucking not fine. What the fucking time? No. Absolutely not. So Avery's like alternate life, because she talks about it in in chapter 1 of this arc, and saying how like, like in my alternate life, I was still reaching out to people and still making connections. And I don't necessarily think that's very true. She was not reaching out to people. She was running away into the ruins and like getting eaten up by echoes. And then she just kind of found Jessica and was like, hey, can I come sit by your fire? Oh, you're giving me a chocolate bar? Thank you. That's very nice of you. Oh, I guess I can help you look for that kid or whatever. Like, she was not like being an active participant in reaching out, really. She was just kind of passively there and being like, yeah, I'll help. Oh, yeah, can I sit by the fire so I don't fucking die? And I really like the complete difference between pre-story Avery and Avery now, where she's just kind of very much completely turned it around. Like, now she's like, she meets some random lady on the path that doesn't speak her language, and she's like, here, have a present, have a business card as well. give me an email. Please do it in English. Google Translate does not work well with Punjabi, apparently.
I love that she handed the woman some fey glamour, and the woman was like, absolutely not.
Yeah, like, do not even think about it. Auntie, what the fuck is this? And her auntie's like, but it's so good. And then she's on the promenade, and this is like when the wolf is on the promenade as well, like kind of chasing them, and they're heading towards the first train, and she's like, oh shit, all right. The train just came in, there's lost everywhere, wolf's coming for us. Snowdrop, hand me the flyers. Lovely vacation town. Ski town. Anybody want to come for a vacation? Found a place, vacation.
January 1st.
Yeah, don't stay after after New Year's. It's dangerous then. But before then, please come along. Come on. tells one person, like,
Yeah,
the wolf is
forgot
out there.
about that.
Can you take this to my friends? I'll give you a favor if you come to my town and you do this. Thanks,
oh
buddy.
my gosh.
And
Yeah, that
the
is
lost
pretty
ones
wild.
often does it. And it's just it's such this wild, like, change between, like, her in her, like, kind of in her past, you know,
Mhm.
her in the alternate life as well, and her now. Whereas, like, I think Wildbow likes to write characters that have, like, kind of like a fundamental kind of something about them, but then have them be in situations where that didn't work. So, like, Avery fucking loves reaching out to people. She's, like, this great, like, saleswoman, you know, like, she just wants to talk to people. She wants to learn their life story. She wants to help them. Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy, but have my email account and some fake glamour. It's a freebie. You're a friend. We're friends now. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
And message me, baby.
Yeah.
I was waiting for the rhyme. I was like, well, it's still going. Maybe it'll get there.
No, I dropped the rhyme. I was hoping that everyone would pick up on what I was putting down there. But yes.
I gotcha. I like it.
But yeah, like she has this kind of like fundamental like love of reaching out to people and forming connections and making friends. And just she was in a situation where she just kind of couldn't, where that was pushed to the back because her parents, unfortunately, kind of didn't have time for the child that was quiet and just got on with their shit. And so she was disincentivized towards doing it. And then she kind of got into this, well, now I'm not talking to anybody. I'll just not talk to anybody for the next 3 months. And then we can kind of clearly see in her alternate life where it's like, well, it wasn't 3 months then. It was probably like, you know, a year or so until she met Jessica in the ruins. And it's just like, and then from there, yeah, sure, she may have gone on to reach out from that point because she loves doing it. But she was just, yeah, it's just this great, like, I've kind of lost it, but it's like this great, like, change between, like, past her, who is, like, has this fundamental, like, property to herself, but was not able to bring it out. And now current her, who obviously still has the fundamental property, but can bring it out. And now she's, like, running down the promenade going, guys, ski vacation. Which lost here wants to come skiing? It's going to be fun.
It is a really great contrast.
Yeah.
I love that train of thought because I feel like it gets into like some of the themes of this arc specifically. Like I feel like there was a lot of like exploration of like teacher, student, and parent-child dynamics. I almost said relationships there, but I don't want to get into Seth and Cameron.
Good
Like how do we guide and mentor children? Like how do you end up with like a Lucy, Avery, or Verona instead of a Kira Lynn? And like some of that is like down to like what's something fundamental about those people. Like clearly the St. Victor's kids were picked because they're a little messy. But a lot of that is the way that they're guided. And so I liked seeing like having a whole chapter of this arc going into like the Kelly's parenting style and how they're trying to shape their kids. Cause we also have like almost parent-child relationships with the Negateer mentors and the practitioners. I mean, especially with Yiyun and Nomi. Nomi is sort of like a replacement daughter for Yiyun, but we can see how much, like especially Nomi and Kira Lynn were affected by their mentors. Because they start out with somewhat similar hangups. Like they both have systems for like grading themselves and seeing the world with letter grades. Like Nomi goes on about how she's like a C+ average person, appearance, backstory, and Kira Lynn is mad at the rest of the world for being C-. They both at one point were very passionate about what Charles is doing. Like Nomi has that argument with Lucy at almost the beginning of the arc. At the Christmas market, and then Kira Lynn has an argument with Verona later in the arc that's kind of has the same themes of like, hey, you guys aren't going far enough. So there are similarities between them, and yet Yiyun is kind to Nomi and tries to like help her see more nuance in the world. Like she talks a lot about dichotomies, which is very much a counter to Charles's black and white messages. She's giving her support. And at the end of the arc, like Nomi is the one who's not on board with the more terrible things that her side is doing. She leaves the fight when Yiyun does. She like hesitates and looks uncomfortable when her side is doing bad things. Whereas obviously Kira Lynn went hard in the other direction, which like is maybe not because of Griffin, but like he definitely wasn't a positive influence for her. And so it's been fun to like see how moldable the kids in this story are.
Yeah, definitely a difference between a parent figure and trying to hit on your student.
It's a little unfortunate. Yeah.
Unfortunate.
Just a little. But look, he was forced once, so he's a good person underneath it all.
automatically.
Yeah, that's just how that works.
Just in case anyone's listening, because I feel like I've seen some talk in, I don't know, places where like people are like, oh, well, but they're like only a couple years older. Let me just say, I remember being in high school. A couple years is fucking huge.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
it's I mean, even if it wasn't, I mean, there is a huge difference in maturity there, like between 15, 16-year-old and like an 18-year-old. It's
Not to mention the
huge.
power imbalance of student
Yes.
teacher. It's like
Exactly.
ugh.
That just ramps it up. Like, yeah, it's just, no, it's not okay. It's
Just
a life
creepy.
stages thing too. Like Kira is in school, like she's in high school. Seth has kind of like been sort of like entrepreneur part of his family circle for a long time. So like there's a lot of maturity that you get just based on what you've been doing. I think it's why like a senior in high school dating a sophomore in high school feels a lot better than a junior in high school dating a freshman in high school, right?
Okay, sorry.
Because
I'm
there's
just
a
gonna
life
need
transition.
just one moment. Sorry. That was very American of you. Yeah, completely. You're very American. You said American terms, and things like sophomore and freshman and junior and senior. Now, those are all words, and it seems to me like junior and freshman are basically
Senior.
the same thing. So you go grade
No.
1, and then you go grade 2, and it's very easy to understand.
Very different.
3, 4. I know you guys are Americans, so I just thought I'd take it slow here.
Well, I think actually our grade 1 and 2 like aren't the same. Like I think our kindergarten is your grade
Oh,
1,
God.
maybe.
Right. What's your grade?
that's-
What's the top grade in before college?
Okay, we don't really have
Grades.
college, we have university.
Sure.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Grade 12.
That's fired.
Okay.
Grade 12.
So-
Okay.
That's the same.
I'm
That's the
sick.
same as ours. Okay.
So grade 9 is freshman. Grade
Because we're fresh.
10 is sophomore. Grade 11 is junior. Again, does not make sense. And grade 12
Okay.
is senior.
And
They
people
probably,
still
like-
for 18?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Usually.
Okay, cool.
I was 17 the whole time because my birthday was at the
I was, 17 and
I
18.
have a summer
Okay.
birthday.
Yeah, I turned 18 halfway through.
Okay, cool. I vaguely... Look, I'm not going to remember the names. I've heard the names a million times. I don't remember what they're... And the worst part is like our high school... Look, my state is even weirder than the rest of Australia because we have high school from grade 7 to 10, and then we have a separate learning institution called college, which is grades 11 and 12. High school in Australia is grade 7 to 10.
So in university, how do you, because we
Oh,
also
God.
do that for university. We say freshman, whatever. So what do you,
We do.
We
Say
just said
freshman in
first year.
college.
Like, I am in my first year of university.
Wow.
It's get a lot easier when you don't just make up words about them. When you just say, yeah, I'm in the first year.
I
Look,
feel
we
like
wanna-
ours
we
is
like
more
scouting.
interesting. Ours is more fun.
Fun.
Even in law school, it's not, I mean, we can say first year, second year, but like we say 1L, I'm a 1L, I'm a 2L. Or I think some places do L1,
Why?
L2 for like law.
Why?
Because we like being different.
Oh.
We have to differentiate. Can't
You
just have
you
numbers.
say, yeah, I'm in my first year of university. Oh, I'm in my second year. I'm in my third year, but I'm taking some second year classes as well.
Okay, here's
Oh,
a
God.
question. Because for us, we kind of, or at least me, I differentiate college.
Mhm.
Like, so what is it? Like all universities are colleges, but not all colleges are universities.
Yeah.
In the US.
What the fuck is a college?
I think it's just it doesn't have grad school question mark.
Well, my university has a bunch of colleges, right?
Oh,
There's like the College of Liberal Arts and the College
It's fucked.
of Engineering.
No, mine
That's
did too.
borrowing
right now.
from
I didn't even
the
think about that.
English version, where they have colleges of a college of
Well,
law.
We're a mixed melting pot of
Yeah, and sometimes you take everything
Shit, you
that's
know.
coming in, and you're like, let's take the. You're a real Charles, America. Let's just take the worst possible aspect of all of this and slam it all in
Oh.
here, and I'm sure it'll come out fantastic.
Okay, that's fucked up.
I'm
That's fucked
sorry.
up. Call this Charles. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. You're just mad because we got fancy schmancy
Bad
names.
names. Bad names that are unclear.
You know, just because you didn't think of them first.
Even if I had,
you know,
I wouldn't use them.
America is.
There's nothing wrong.
What were we talking about?
We're talking about
Right,
how gross
yes.
Seth is.
Right, and then you guys were comparing
Right.
like a bunch of names to each other, and I was like, oh, no.
Like, what the fuck is this talking? I mean, I can understand that being confusing.
Yeah.
But
Or bad.
calling us Charles
I'm
is just
sorry.
too far.
For the harm that has caused you. I'm not sorry for saying it.
I accept your apology. Thank you.
I wouldn't accept that apology. That was a horrible apology, but okay. I'll take it.
I mean, you know, we have to keep the peace. We have to keep. I mean, I'm gonna. No, it does seem kind of like it's kind of confusing. As we were talking about it, I was like, yeah, I can see this being a little hard to follow. So, anyhow, okay. Seth Saxon is a creeper. His friend Griffin, is that his name? Am I just making that up?
Griffin,
That's
yeah.
the name,
something
right?
I've just
like
been
that.
shortening it to Griff.
He's a
'cause I
creeper.
don't remember.
Griff. Okay. Griff. Charles is just also a creeper. We've got the two guys in Verona's apartment that are not magical, but are also
And then,
creeps.
something I noticed, I think it was in Kira Lynn's interlude, where she sees Verona and she's like, she looks like she's fucking 12. And these guys are like, oh my god, like, how old is she? She looks like maybe a teenager. It's like,
Yeah, because I think they were like some 12-year-olds who look 18 and blah blah blah.
absolutely.
And, you guys are fucking disgusting.
Absolutely foul.
Like, just, I mean, I'm kind of shocked. I'm like, man, you guys, like, just that you're saying that out loud to like another person. I mean, I guess you guys know that you're both creeps, but just like, just to feel like that confident saying like, yes, I feel like this literal child looks like it's fucking hot. Like, that's,
I feel sick.
Yeah,
That's
like, man.
It's truly disgusting.
Well, I'm sorry. It is truly disgusting.
Seth
Like,
and the two boys
then
need to die.
what's even more disgusting?
Forever.
Yes.
No
But,
phosphorus.
yeah, the thing that's even more disgusting than that, and that's very disgusting, is that she told her dad about it and said exactly what happened, and he still was like, "Oh well, I'm trying to make rent, so they're gonna stay." Like, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, out of literally everything in the
Fucking
story,
joking.
that feels like the most accurate description of like gross men.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I wonder how the Child Protective Services equivalent is going to interpret Verona like being gone now, because they had to leave in such a rush. Like, I don't think they had time to necessarily set up like connection blockers. So it might just look like Verona ran away. And I wonder how that's going to go down.
Interesting.
Yeah, because
That's a
the
good
last like chat she has is with like David and being like, "Hey, this is fucked. I hate this so much. Please fix it. Dear God, I am worried for my safety." But she didn't literally say that because she would not be allowed to, because she would have to say she's worried for their safety.
That's really good.
But like, yeah, like the last thing, the Child Protective Services person hears is like, yeah, like these two renters, and it's the most disgusting thing ever. And then she's like, not there anymore.
I mean, I wonder what Juliet's gonna do in terms of after this, because I know and I haven't been reading anything from the new stuff because I don't want to get confused. But it makes me wonder if she's gonna try to find the Kenneteers and tell them like, hey, I'm not actually like dead, or if she's gonna go back and try to take over Verona's life to help her out, or I don't know.
I feel like I remember her saying at the end of 20.c that like she wouldn't be able to turn back. I feel like I need to check that, but I feel like she said that she might not be able to turn back into a human without
because I think
help.
like the fetch part was like obliterated, and then the cat part was left over. So it's like presumably the mass of her body, and then like she's got like a scrap of flannel.
Right, but something about also wanting to go tell everyone else what had happened. I think like being able to go and communicate, this is what just happened. So I could see that like Guillemette or something could glamour her back up into Verona, and she could go, because I mean it's not just Verona that disappeared, it's all three of them. And so if Juliet's able to like talk to the adults about it, they can probably figure out some way to like make Brett not freak out. Although she also doesn't spend very much time at home anyway. I don't know.
Yeah,
True.
it says in 20.c, as a cat incapable of becoming something much larger, at least without help, she dashed the length of the hallway. Then Charles talks to her a bit, and it says she couldn't respond. So it sounds like she can't talk or turn into a human right now. But to your point, Guillermay's in the area, so I feel like he would just help her with that.
Although, I wonder how much of her is like, because I mean, to me, like it very much feels like 90% of her being then is like smashed up, and like can Guillermay recreate from that 10%, or is there like Verona stuff that needs to go into that? That Guillermay hopefully doesn't have a whole box of Verona stuff sitting around. Wouldn't put it past him.
You never know.
So I wonder if that's like Gillette absolutely 100% needs to get back to the Kenneteers, or Gillette can like go sit in the domain and then get gussied up by Guillermay.
Kind of random. I'm sorry, but every time I hear you say talking about Gillette, whatever, I keep thinking of the razor company.
I think that's why I fucked up with Giselle
connection.
earlier, and I called her Gillette. I've been trying to say Gillette, but
Gillette.
They sound very similar.
That's probably correct, but
because of my accent.
They do.
Because I'm an Australian mate.
I'm not. No, I already showed my wonderful accent earlier, so I don't need to prove it again. So I'm not going to do it anymore.
Yeah. So I wanted to swing back around. We talked about Avery a lot, and on one of our recent episodes of Pale in Comparison, Jenny laid down her hot take that the Kelly family practice is a horrible idea.
Oh,
and I'm wondering what y'all think about it.
The coldest take in the universe, Jenny.
It's pretty cold. I know.
Cannot be more correct. Especially Rowan. Yes. Oh my god. What a horrible idea.
Rowan might be okay.
Rowan would be fucking shocking. You don't have to apologize for him, SDF. It's fine. He's not in the room. You can talk shit about him.
Okay, so this is a quote from the Discord about like Rowan becoming a practitioner that I really liked. So it says, I'm thinking he's going to be always pretty mediocre if you aren't feeling generous in description, but also steady. He'll be some shaman puttering away at a project in a city that people mostly ignore until there's major trouble. No one knows what to do, and there's an all-hands-on-deck meeting last minute that someone finally remembered to CC him into. He says, oh, wow, this is pretty serious. Give me a sec to call my sister. And then a whole endgame sequence of 20 different world-class squads portaling in from another dimension.
I love the implication that like it's not that Rowan himself will pull something out of his ass and become like, pull off something really amazing. It's just that he knows Avery.
That's going to save the entire Kelly family practice.
Anytime there's an issue, they're like, oh god, let me get my sister. Let me get my
Honestly,
daughter.
the thing I keep thinking about that actually does bother me is like Kelsey's career. I worry, like she's like this really high up manager. It seems like she's like really important to the company, but of course, like being aware or awakened especially like really limits the amount that you're able to like be a public figure in human society. So like I'm worried that she's gonna like awaken and like lose her job, and like that would be really sad because it seems like she's worked really hard to be where she is.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if she just didn't awaken. Because we do actually see Rowan just saying, no, I'm not he's not interested, but he like explicitly says like, no, I don't want this shit. Like, this is too much. And I can definitely see Kelsey just kind of agreeing and just being like, look, I have so much of my own shit going on. This is scary. No, thank you.
What are our thoughts on Connor?
She has checked out pretty hard.
Connor.
I think he's going to stay there. They say Kelly family like practice, and I really think it's just showing. Yeah,
she needs to work on her sarcasm.
But
we love an aware disaster sibling.
Yeah.
Eventually, I could see maybe
we do.
Carrie, but she's still so little. I'm not entirely sure what she'll be like and want when she's older, and hopefully, she doesn't find out about it for a long time, and it just makes it less likely that that's the case. I mean, at least they live in a different city.
It makes me sad. Like, the more Kellys that become aware or awakened, like, the more that those siblings are going to be kind of like the screaming emergency, and the more that like Carrie and Declan are going to possibly fall through the cracks.
Oh, definitely needs
That's true. Definitely.
He needs to not fall through the cracks. My God.
Yeah, that's just all bad. Okay, what about Grumble?
Oh,
okay.
Already a practitioner. I don't know what that's a ridiculous.
Weren't there like
comment.
secret practitioner theories about him at the beginning of
That's
the
all
story?
Reuben.
I think everyone, yeah.
That was all Reuben. I think I added some in because it was funny. But yes, Aunt Heather, Grumble,
Mm-hmm.
Verona's dad and Verona's mum.
Verona's mom, yeah.
But then it was taken from them, I think.
Mm.
Hence they had this big hole in their life. I remember that being a theory.
I
I don't think it was very serious, but if it was serious and I just offended the fuck out of you, I'm not sorry. Once again.
I really think I missed the Grumble one. That's disappointing.
Oh, yeah, no, Grumble's secret practitioner.
Did they say what kind
There
of
was this
practitioner?
weird theory that Reuben pulled out ages ago. This is like arc 3 or something. But like the reason why like so many of the adults that we see are like kind of messed up is because they were practitioners, and then it was taken from them the way that Matthew took the memories from Louise.
Oh,
That's why Grumble, who was a practitioner his entire life into his like late years, is now like has really bad dementia because like so much of his life was taken out. V dad and V mum had something there, but then the practice in their life was taken out, and so they kind of left both hollow. And it was an insane theory. It was interesting,
Well,
but it was
so
also
I think
insane.
that one of the worst things about the whole practitioner like oaths and stuff and like awakening is becoming an old person. Like I feel like we haven't seen this explored very much, and I don't know if they all just like die or become forsworn real fast or whatever, but like seeing older people who experience like health problems or cognitive decline, like they just say things that are like factually inaccurate all the time, because like they don't remember the thing right, and they just like say these statements. And like I don't think that having the training all your life of like not lying would help, because they believe that the thing that they're saying is true. And so
That's
like
true.
What on earth happens to like practitioners who develop dementia or Alzheimer's or like whatever, and the thought of something really, really horrible happening to you because you got old? Like, are there old practitioners? Like,
I wonder if you can just like spirit
Probably not
surgery
a
that
lot.
out of yourself, like get rid of the Alzheimer's somehow.
Get rid of the oldness.
huh?
Oh.
I mean,
That's interesting.
I mean,
'cause-
we saw with Musa that when his father was getting old, or grandfather, I don't know, when his predecessor was getting kind of too old for it, he just kind of gave it all up in
but
a
I
way.
don't.
But you
I
can't
don't
get
know
rid
if you
of
can
the-
like.
yeah.
Yeah. That's like pay spoilers, but like you can't just you can stop practicing, but you can't
Oh my God,
start lying.
Don't spoil it, please.
It's so good. All you need to go. I want to. Yeah.
Well, that's really interesting. I haven't thought about that before. But like,
Please go listen to
besides
this, everybody.
just old age, like some like for instance, if you have like the gene for some kind of like maybe schizophrenia or something like that runs in your family, sometimes it'll get triggered at like when you're like maybe late teens to like early adulthood, and you'll start maybe seeing hallucinations or hearing hallucinations, and something like that would make it very difficult if you'd awakened. It'd be pretty easy.
I wonder
Yeah,
if it could become like a rule of discourse, like especially like if you're having hallucinations, like they're real to you, and so like in a sense, like they are real, just like depending on your definition of real.
Yeah, perhaps because
I can see that. Oh, but also I could definitely see like a soft depowering over time, where like you are gainsaying yourself like 10 times a day, but you haven't like forsworn yourself or anything. You're just continuously gainsaid
you're
until
just like
you're essentially
Because Cherry lies all the time, and she's fine.
yeah, but rule of discourse, Cherry's a moron.
It's true.
So,
So
fine.
yeah, 'cause, like also if you get really sick, sometimes based on what's going on in your body, or even if you're just stuck in the hospital for a long time, you can get like ICU induced delirium, or if you're septic or have other issues, you can get hallucinations or other things from that too. I've never really thought about that. That's really interesting. But yeah, hopefully it'd be a rule of discourse or something, so you're not going to get I guess if you're
Hopefully.
stuck in the hospital and you're getting gainsaid, it's not like you're going to have a lot of energy to be doing magical shit anyway. So
Right. Maybe as long as they're not
Yeah.
like making or breaking promises. I mean, the hard thing is like, what if they forget a promise they made? Whatever.
Yeah.
But as long as that's not happening, being gainsaid isn't the worst thing in the world for them.
Or hopefully no one's going to like call an old person on breaking an oath. Like, if it wasn't egregious enough that the spirit stepped in, like, hopefully no one would do that.
I don't know.
I mean, they would. Okay, this is practitioner society. They would.
See,
Alexander would.
Matthew's dad went around to like hospitals and were like,
Mm.
well, you're about to die. Let me just steal a couple of months off of you, a couple of months off of you. Oh, it's beautiful. Like, people would absolutely do that. Like,
Sure.
I think there's probably a part of it where, like, as you get older, your apprentices kind of protect you. Like, the system that you have built up around passing your knowledge down, which seems to be a very big thing, you know, protects you. And worst comes to worst, if they've got a domain, you can just chuck them in it and lock the door. Horrible.
No, I mean,
things I say.
That's possibly one of the best things that could happen, depending on what other
I
safeguards
mean, yeah, it's
there are.
probably better than being full swan.
That kind of reminds me. I don't really know why it reminds me, but what are they called? What are they called? The creepy ass family.
The ordinary
The
family.
ordinary
No,
family?
Oh.
The ordinary
Creepy.
family.
They're completely
So,
normal.
like-
What are you talking about?
Creepy? No.
They transgendered the corpse. That was cool.
Oh.
Yeah,
Wow, you know what?
it was
I
a-
don't think I caught that.
I didn't either. I only caught it because I was
I
rereading
didn't
that
catch that.
chapter yesterday. But yeah, it was a female corpse, and like a dude just walks out after they take the corpse in.
Oh,
So
Interesting.
they
That's
they
kinda neat.
completely
That's like a really-
replace the self.
How do they?
How? So
Yeah, it makes me wonder how they're making the new people if they don't necessarily have to use like the raw materials from the old person.
I think that's in fact the question that's on everybody that's dealing with the ordinary family's mind. Like, what the
Like,
how the
is-
fuck?
Like, if it's just corpses, is that kind of okay, or
I mean,
is it just?
if they were
I mean-
only ever using corpses, yeah, that's fine. Honestly, it wasn't the worst the way the Legendas dealt with them. They're just like, no, just chuck a seal around it. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, so funny. They were just like, let's just
Nothing's
keep
gone
this
out or
spreading,
gone in the
okay.
last 3 months, but they're still like walking around on the inside of the house. Yeah, they're probably fine. they'll be right.
On the one hand, I would say that like the Kennet solution there would be to just like feed them corpses, a la like Nibble and Chloe. But also, like, I don't think they need to grow, right? Like they were fine just being the first family.
And now they're 5,
Mm.
at least, because we haven't seen anything since they
Can
went
they
and
get
saw them.
pets? If they find
So,
like, can they steal someone's dog, or if they
They
find
get
a dead dog?
Can't they just like adopt a dog, like a normal dog, and just like have a
No,
dog?
they would
Who's
replace
gonna go and who are they gonna get the dog from? Who's gonna go over there and give him a damn dog? They're gonna.
Yeah, we don't know that they can't just be normal and live like an ordinary life.
Malia, they are living an ordinary life. Why don't you just go in for some tea and biscuits, and you'll be welcomed as one of the family, really. They're just so nice.
Like, if they could do that, wouldn't they just like go and convince people to go back to their house or kidnap people? Or
They
don't
may
know.
well have been
I guess-
doing that.
I guess so. I just can't see him walking into a supermarket, or into a pound.
They're super normal.
Oh, they're so creepy.
Super normal.
I hate that the site doesn't work around them. Like in there, not even the people
know,
are
yeah.
like extending out to like the boundaries of the property. Like, just doesn't.
Every new
just
detail
no
we
site
learn about
is
them,
allowed
it's like,
there.
oh, great, horrifying.
yes,
Thank
cool.
you.
Then Egan's like, yes, like giving them the corpse has given me insight. I'm not going to tell you. Get fucked. I'm like, God damn it, you. That's why I can't support her, because she doesn't tell Nomi exactly what the ordinary family is, so we can know.
We get a Yoon chapter,
I wanna
and
know.
it's just the ordinary family,
Oh.
like bullet point by bullet
Yeah.
point.
Yes, I want to know.
Waldo just drops an extra material, and it's just the ordinary
That'd be great.
family. And everyone
I'm so
is
happy,
so
but
happy.
yet really depressed at the
It's
same
an
time.
interlude from the ordinary family's perspective, but it's just them like doing normal
Oh.
stuff for, like the whole.
That's genuinely
You
that's
still
worse.
don't know what.
That's so much worse.
It's so good.
That's such a good idea. Oh my goodness. Yeah, well, that's creepy. There's any other creepy things that stand out in this arc that y'all want to talk about?
All of it? Well, Seth.
Yeah, I know. What a question.
Helen and the horrifying
Just
horroring practice.
I mean, I don't know. It was. I don't even know how he writes about that because it was so hard just reading it to wrap my head around it.
Yeah, it was good.
It was good.
Also, when Monty showed up, my first thought was Charles, and then my second thought was the Page of Suns.
I thought it was the Arum because it talked about like gold light, and then I was like, it's definitely not the Arum.
That too.
I had no idea.
I honestly thought it was Monty.
I did not know.
Wow,
they
Jen.
explicitly called it out as Monty, and I was like, oh, it's Monty.
Jen's
That's
on
cool.
the wavelength.
Jen's got it.
I almost never guess that kind of a thing, honestly, but I actually thought it was Monty. So I'm happy with myself. I can't prove it, but just, trust me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we believe you.
Yeah. Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah, that was it was pretty horrible, but it was really well written. It was really fun. Fun's not a nice way to put it, but it was fun to read.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, it was like morbidly interesting and fun in that way, but
horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, one thing I did
horrible.
want to note is that actually, if you take a transphobic person, right, and you horrify them, they become not transphobic. It's really like I think we figured out a new way to go forward with society. Because Chase, once he's like getting horrified, is like, "Hey Zed, don't tell me this thing," and he's not like, "Hey, dead man." And I think this is the first time I can think of. So like, actually, Helen's okay. I think we should invite her to Kennet and just be like, "Look, just these people that are being shitheads, just go get them, get them out."
I guess, yeah, seeing Infinity has a way to change your perspective.
You know what? Actually, he suffered. And then he was a good person.
Oh no! Oh
That's
no!
it. Mix everything I've said on the podcast so far. I am 100% behind Charles now. He is so right.
We've circled back around to Charles is good? Question mark.
Oh man, I did not think I was gonna. Wow, that was amazing. Blows your mind a little bit. I do have to say, like that, like Chase being kind of the hero or sacrificing himself. I did not see that.
Oh, absolutely not.
That was shocking.
I think it plays into like it can be easier sometimes to like make a grand heroic sacrifice that is like undeniably good and to like do something like that as opposed to like doing kind of like slow grind of working on yourself over the course of like several years.
Yeah.
And so like Chase probably couldn't have or wouldn't have like actually like slowly become a better person as he went into adulthood, but he could accomplish like this like grand noble gesture, which like doesn't make the gesture not good. I just think that in some cases like it can be easier to make a heroic sacrifice than to like
put all
change
that labor
yourself
into change.
Yeah.
Interesting.
No, that is an interesting.
I think that's a good point.
It's a good way to look at it. It does kind of ring true. And it's still a good thing to do because he could have also just been like,
not to diminish like the sacrifice.
He could have done what literally everybody else did and went, not
still
not
kind of
me,
shocked
thanks."
that he didn't just kind of slowly back out of the room and just keep on
like
reversing.
Hannah did, who just kind of like
He's
stared
there.
at Jillian and was like,
my
this is a
Yeah.
bit much. And she's like, don't leave. Oh, please. Just one
Oh,
thing.
at
If
least
you just
stay
stay.
here. And then he's
And he's like, I'm just gonna
oh my
get some
God.
cigarettes. I'll
And be like, well, you're a shithead.
Ugh, the worst.
Speaking of, bringing up something different that I'm curious to see if we'll manage to get around to Charles again. I have been thinking occasionally about how Wallace is like not in the story anymore. And then also Nora and Avery were such a big part of this arc. And I'm wondering, like, do any of you have thoughts about the two like romantic relationships that these Kenneteers are currently in? Because it doesn't really seem like Wallace is going to be, the long haul or whatever.
Wallace can't be the long haul.
And yeah.
No, like in story, Lucy like swore to a Winter Fae to marry a practitioner from a family of practitioners. Because he does say like you can't get around it.
Family practice.
Like, yeah.
So it didn't. I don't think that actually went through, though, right?
Yeah, I think she was just like proposing it as a possibility, and then like it didn't
I don't think it actually went through. Yeah, if I remember correctly.
My
but-
I mean, either way, Wallace is really lovely, and I really like him, and I really like Lucy having a person in her life that's important, that's like not involved in the practice. When her mom was awakened, that was something that was awarened, that was something that was really hard for her. Was like suddenly she doesn't have any escape from this world. And I think he's lovely, but we haven't really heard from him. The last time we saw him, he was across the street. Like he just and then with Nora, she's so fun and cool, and she's growing, and we're like becoming invested in her, and we're seeing like all this cool sweet stuff about their relationship, which then, because they're growing together as opposed to Wallace and Lucy, who aren't, we hit the wall of like, no, but are you Banksy? Like, tell me the truth, kind of. And then it can't, I don't know. What do y'all do? Where do you see this going? I almost want to say, like, did Avery do the right thing in not telling Nora? But I think, like, almost certainly yes is the answer.
Well, okay, so here is how this is an allegory for Charles and forswearing. Wait, SDF, please go on. I was just making it.
I think she's right to not aware in Nora, just because, like, they're 14 and it's, like, her first relationship, and that's not, I mean, Nora's great, but it's probably not going to last, and, like, you shouldn't count on that lasting. And
yeah,
I think Avery even says, like, explicitly at some point during Arc 20 that, like, she would really worry about, like, with Nora and how anxious she is, like, whether making her aware would, like, really hurt her. Or like have like an overall negative impact. And then of course, once it's done, like it can't be undone. But it's like both sad and kind of sweet that it is like the growth that Nora has had with Avery that allows her to kind of stand up for herself in this moment and be like, hey, like I'm better at standing up for myself now. And because of that, I have to tell you that this isn't okay. And it's like great that she's grown so much, but also Wildbow killed me in that chapter.
It was beautiful, but I cried.
I
So
know.
yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty rough, but definitely the right thing to not tell her. But
Yeah, I mean, like,
kind of wish she could anyway. But
yeah,
no.
like SKF said, they're 14. This is like literally their first relationship. Like, don't assume that everything is going to last forever. Like, sure, hope for the best, but fucking plan for the worst, okay? Like, don't awareanize your first partner at 14 and fuck up their life for the rest of their life.
It sucks because like the thing
damn it.
that's currently hurting Nora and hurting their relationship is that Avery's not being honest, but also it's just like in this case being honest maybe would be worse. It is sort of like if she's in the mob or whatever.
Yeah.
I was really hoping that Nora thought Avery was an organized crime. I just would have thought that was so funny.
I mean, you know, from Nora's point of view, like, this is all pretty fucking shit. Like, and this girl that she thinks is so cool is like, yeah, I like you, but I'm not going to tell you anything about my life implicitly because, you know, I don't trust you with it.
Right.
And she's kind of being like, well, I hate to stand up for myself. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been in situations where I've hated standing up for myself because it sucked. And like it hurt like a relationship, and it hurt me, and it hurt everybody else. But it's like, I can't be like, you know, walked over here because I respect myself too much, even though it's hurting everybody. But this is just how it has to be for me to have like a modicum of self-respect. And it sucks to do.
For sure.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Avery and Nora are not a thing ever again. But I would be delighted if, now, Wildbird, this is directly to you. I would be delighted if in an epilogue there was an Avery and Nora section. Please, thank you, please. Just do it. Just do it, buddy. Come on.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, I do kind of wonder, like, if, I mean, I feel like Avery was so excited to just have a relationship, and she likes Nora so much and wants her to be in her life as much as possible, but can't fully. But if she had held herself back a little bit and sharing some of those other things, maybe it'd be a little bit easier to keep. Maybe Nora wouldn't feel like there's some obvious stuff that she's keeping, like withholding from her.
Yeah, I guess it's a question of how much do you hold back from interacting with others. And Avery fucking hates holding back from interacting with others. Like, kind of, we've very much seen that a lot, that she's like full heart forward, like, I am going to be there like 100%. I'm going to be genuine and honest every single step of the way. And now she's in this situation where it's like, you actually can't be genuine and honest every step of the way, Avery. That will be horrible. Please don't. And so she's having to be like, she's trying to find like a bit of an equilibrium. And yeah, the equilibrium she's found so far is not very good because it's like 99% of the way to being 100% honest. And it's like maybe like 90%, maybe like 80% is probably better. Like, just bring some of that shit back. Like, don't admit that you and your friends organized this entire festival which everybody in the town has come to. Like, don't admit that. Just don't say it. Like, if she asks, you can be like, yeah, I think they had something to do with it, but I don't really know. I didn't have a ton to do with it myself, so like deflect somewhat. Like, my God, Avery, please. Like, oh.
Yeah, that probably would have made it a lot easier.
Yeah, she's so genuine that it hurts herself in this relationship and in relationship with any like non-aware.
Maybe that's just one of those things she'll have to learn as she gets older, and she'll get better at that balance. So. Unless she meets some super hot practitioner
Liberty.
Very possibly.
Well,
that would be a lot easier on her, that's for sure.
One ship sinks, another ship sails.
Well, now that Anthem is being less of a shit, question mark. Maybe that's there.
Maybe that's there.
No, I love Avery and Nora.
Yeah,
I do too.
And I think it's like really important that Avery, like, she doesn't lie to her. I mean, she can't lie, but you know what I mean. Like, she's really not trying to mislead Nora. Like, there's that moment where she and Nora are like hanging out at Nora's house, and Nora's like, "Oh, how did you do that?" And Avery's like, "Oh, magic." And so
that's such a Verona thing to do.
She's like being honest, and I think that's really important to her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is true. Like, it's very sweet and it's beautiful, but at the same time, like it's hurting them by being like, well, did the magic. Oh, all my friends organized this shit. Yeah, I met with this guy and he's like into kidnapping like people. I don't know.
She's not subtle.
And he's like, he offered to help with all of this shit. I probably won't take him.
The spirits must be so mad at all of the smoothing over they've had to done. Like, every time Avery's just like, oh yeah, that's my friend who kidnaps people, and the spirits are like, okay, what conclusion is she gonna draw from this?
Maybe that's why she had a really good day.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because she had that day where her karma was like whack. Maybe it's the really spirits mad about all of her relationship drama.
I feel like we just need a manifestation of the spirits to just come down and be like, Avery, for fuck's sake, like, come on.
Like,
mislead them just a smidge.
Making our job really
like,
fucking
don't
hard.
just come out and say all this.
We had to make her believe you're Banksy.
Oh, I mean, like, you have to feel bad for Avery here because, like, she's doing her best, but she needs to learn more how to do her best better. Unfortunately,
poor thing. It's a tough lesson, a lifelong lesson.
And yeah, I do genuinely think that she is doing her best with Nora, but she's an oversharer.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, you could have just been like, oh, this guy, oh, he's just some guy. And then, like, when Nora walks away, be like, he kidnaps people. He's really fucked up. Like, like, you don't have to be like, oh yeah, Nora, he kidnaps people. Don't have a weird thought about that. Yeah. It's normal.
It's okay. They're really bad.
Like, there are worse people living in Thunder Bay that I also personally know. And have had in-depth conversations with. But, like, it's very Avery to be like, full heart into it, but Jesus Christ.
Yeah, let's take a little bit of that heart out. Just a little
Which
bit.
It feels like the wrong lesson to just be less honest. Just lie implicitly a bit more, teenage girl. That is what you need to do with your relationships with other people, is just not be honest with them. But it's also,
but
it's accurate.
Also being too honest just in real life can be bad too. Like, you don't have to share everything. Which I feel like I've had to learn that in my life too, because, I just feel like I'm a little too honest sometimes for my own good. And I tend to think out loud. So sometimes stuff just like slips past the filter.
Well, I think we're all glad you're not a practitioner. Because
none more than me. Yeah, that would be. I mean, I would do really good on the no lying part.
Yeah, but I think the spirits might be a bit mad with you if you're just like, yeah, I was just drawing this ritual, doing this big ritual last night. And I'm pretty tired. Yeah, sorry. Oh, ritual. Oh,
Yeah, I'm
it's like a
doing
magic
magic.
thing. Yeah,
Like,
classic.
yeah, this guy that like talks to fairies and stuff, but no, I mean, I've never talked to a fairy, but yeah,
But like, well,
I don't
I've sent them emails, but I've never told
yeah,
them.
but no, but and they'll be like, "What do you mean fairy?" Yeah, that I probably have some bad karma days. So anyway, it's a good thing for the world. Anyway,
All right. Do we feel like we're ready to talk about the meaning of the arc title?
Okay.
I feel like I had another question.
Oh,
Okay, just because I want to
Oh,
ask
right.
about it.
We have questions before we talk about the meaning of the arc title. My bad.
Okay, so we've already kind of touched on this, but so I don't know if there's anything more to say about it. But I wrote it down, and it's not a full question because I'm lazy. But I wanted to see if there's anything else we wanted to touch on in terms of like the different Forsworn teachers. And we've already talked about a few of them, but I guess just any other
the alchemist was
or
really cool. The guy that's like, yeah, I
mhm.
can make any practice with alchemy. So I'm just going to throw this vial and then a bunch of homunculi are going to pop out and then pray to a flesh angel made of cancer. And that'll just come out of the wall there.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, what are you doing?
Like, well, that's
For the love
terrifying.
of God, please don't do that.
Verona's there like, us two.
She's
we
trying
should
to
rock.
make notes. Yeah.
That looks pretty cool. I could do that. That was probably the coolest of the
Mhm.
practices there.
What do you think? Like,
But yeah,
bunch of
overall,
bastards,
they're a bunch
but
of butts.
can do some kind of cool stuff. What do y'all think was like the most surprising part of this arc to you?
I mean, Jillian getting horrified.
Oof.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I'm gonna throw out 4 different constructs in the Lost City. Not just the construct, but an ice one that then disappeared and hasn't come back, and a one that's just missing.
Wildbow
and
every once in a
flickering,
while
as well
likes
as
to
the
just
metal
like throw on a little Pisces to stir the pot. I think when he gets bored of like what's in the chat.
one. These people haven't been thinking about 100
shake
years
them up.
lost enough. Well, have
Let's
fun,
change
motherfuckers. Now you can not only speculate on the one
That's pretty
construct,
wild.
but on how they're all different,
They're all different.
and what that means.
I think that Aweridin was pretty surprising. I didn't quite see that coming.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Jane?
Those are all fuck.
Yeah, you posed the question.
I
Gonna
got
get
out.
thrown back
Yeah,
at
I
you.
should have come up with an answer. I feel like I didn't expect Edith to actually die.
Oh,
Or,
yeah.
like, that kind of surprised me. I thought she would get away or something, and yeah, that took me by surprise.
Yeah, because there's the old like writing technique where it's like if you show a plan being laid out, it won't happen. So if someone like tells you their plan in a book, it's going to go wrong and it won't happen. Whereas like in Kira Lynn's interlude, she's like, "Yeah, we're going to kill the patient," and you're like, "Okay."
Like,
they'll
yeah,
try,
good
you
fucking
know,
luck,
like,
like-
it'll be a bit of a heck or whatever. And then they just
Kenneteers
fucking
will
do,
pull off,
and it's
yeah.
like, oh, okay. I
Like,
guess
okay,
they
well,
did.
Fuck. I guess it's that's definitely a bit of a
Yeah,
shock.
that
Oh my
was a bit
goodness.
of a shock.
Let me see. Should we talk about here, Malia? You ask one of those because I've been
Right. So the questions that Reuben and Elliot love to torch people with. Which Kennet other would be your first choice for familiar?
Who wants to go first? All right.
Not
So last time I was here, I like cheated and I said Nina. And this time I was like, I should pick an actual Kennet other. But then we saw Nina again this arc. And like, y'all, I stand by what I said before. She's just so perfect. Like, her whole deal is like organizing information and like helping other people get access to it. And like this scene, this arc where she's like helping Verona with the organization of her bookshop, I was like, that right there. I would do the familiar ritual with her, like on the spot, watching that. I love documenting things. I love like figuring out a good way to like structure information so that it like makes sense and so that things are easy to find. And like, I just feel like we would be on the same wavelength. You know what I mean?
I can see that.
So I'm cheating again. I'm sorry. I'm not actually sorry.
When I was I had forgot to do this, but I was thinking about introducing y'all. And I was gonna say that Kippos is a nascent sorceress and that STF that you are Nina, but in real life. So
Winner.
She's pretty great, so I can't really fault you there.
I think actually I'm gonna have to go with Tashlet. She hasn't been in the story for a little while, but the vibe is impeccable. Like thousands of eyes, skin suit. Oh, it's a whole thing, and I am so there for it.
I think the last time I was on here, I said John.
Ooh,
I know.
That's rough.
Fuck. It's rough. I know.
Ouch.
Can I have John back?
No.
Can I just have John
You
back?
can have a red jacket.
I'll take the jacket.
It's
a nice jacket.
It's a nice jacket.
I'll take the jacket. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'm too depressed now.
See, last time I said Tashlet, and I still really love her. She still might not be my choice, but like, I don't know that this is actually true because I think that I don't let myself fully imagine Monty, but like, I want Monty to have the best life, and being able to communicate with Monty, like, would be great. He's so great, and I love him so much. And like, I don't know that I'd necessarily like want to pull a chase, and like, because you know, your familiar really influences you, and being around the blood and spider legs and all of that all the time is not my vibe and not my aesthetic. But also, what? He's just so lovely and wonderful, and I want him for like Alabaster or whatever.
He's a proper gentleman.
So he's so good.
I thought about him, but it just that's the problem though, because he corrupts like connections just from being who he is. That's hard. If I was gonna go along that same route and try to like, I mean, I feel like this would be a terrible idea and I would die immediately. But if it would work to save him, and if I wouldn't die a terrible death, Gilkey.
Oh.
Yeah.
I can see Gilkey being a
I
good
feel
one.
like he'd be a good one.
Poor guy.
Yeah. I also just thought, except I think she might be a little too anxious, and that might like rebound too much in me. But Luna Hare would be really fun. Balancing is cool, and it'd be fun to be able. Oh my god, I could balance my life.
Wait, that's such a good
I could have
idea.
No, can I have Luna
work-life
Hare?
balanced. Oh my
damn.
god.
Work-life balance.
Haven't heard of
I
one.
still can't believe that Verona on meeting Luna Hare was like, balance? That seems lame. Like, no, it's the coolest power in this whole story.
She like directly went on to balance on something insane, and I think it was like the ceiling or something like that. Like, I don't remember. Like she was
She's
balancing
so
while walking
casual.
up the wall.
She's like,
balancing on it. It's like, what the fuck, Luna Hare? Like, what the
I can
fuck?
balance on barrels. I can balance on fences. Oh, also like abstract concepts.
What are you talking about? She's so lovely.
Yeah, that's
That's
good
an excellent
answers.
choice.
Yes. All right. Next loaded question. Who is the best Kenneteer?
I mean, it's Verona. Like, just objectively. I mean, just objectively.
You're just like, no, I think.
I'm sorry. If somebody says something else, I will forswear you. Just so.
Okay.
Just so
well,
you know. Look, pay spoilers, but we know I'll do it.
I mean, that's kind of rude since you're a guest on the podcast.
Yeah, but you know.
Breaking hospitality.
rules.
That's right.
Yeah,
Hospitality.
but you haven't served me any food or drink.
Well, it's kind of hard to.
Well, that's
since
on
you're
you.
in Australia.
If you are enforcing hospitality, I'll enforce it right back.
Can I send you like a hamburger emoji or something?
Not good enough.
I'm gonna pick a food emoji, and well, you know, I'm giving you what I can. So
Maybe resident karmic law practitioner would have been more accurate than nascent sorceress. I was just like, your pace performance was so incredible.
Resident complete bitch. I think is most accurate for that one. Because Lillian Pace is not a nice person.
Oh, she's so good.
She is.
It's just-
Yeah.
She's so competent. It was so refreshing. Anyway, STF.
Oh, I was hoping if I waited long enough, I wouldn't
Do
have
you
to.
absolutely hate with all the fire of your being?
I was like, if they get distracted, then they'll never ask me. I feel like this has gotten so much harder as the story has gone on. Like, okay, in the beginning, I was like, hands down, Avery. Avery was so good, and she still is. But like in the beginning, I was like, she's amazing. And then later, I was like, oh, maybe Verona. But it was like really close between all the three of them. And now it's like I've watched all of the girls come so far and like gotten to know them so well, and it's like comparing apples to oranges at this point because like they're so different. And then every chapter that I have, I like. Every chapter that each girl has, I like connect with whoever the narrator is all over again. But it is Verona.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Who's S tier? Just so we're clear.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I sent y'all a big feast, an emoji feast in the Discord. I'm just going to tell you that.
So you've given me the opportunity, but not the means.
You know, I mean, you feast with your eyes, Kippos.
Yeah, and what did Lily not fucking have any of, okay? It was a very, very important part of her character.
Well, good thing that you're picking Tashlet.
True.
She's got more than enough.
Oh.
So there you
Good
go.
comeback. That was good.
Thank you. I've got to pick Lucy. She's just my girl. She's my girl. I feel like I can relate to Avery in some levels pretty well, but yeah, I don't know. I've gone between those two a lot, but Lucy, she's my girl. That's it.
Realistically, nobody can actually be upset at anybody for having a favorite Kenneteer.
No,
because they're all
unless
fucking
you're an idiot and you say Charles just to piss people off, then
He was a Kenneteer.
I
Oh my
chose
God.
my favorite.
Why did I not say Charles? That would have been so good.
Yeah, then you just immediately get like negative like a million karma.
That's worth it.
And it's worth it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Malia.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's really between Avery and Verona as well. I every time when Mom says that I remind her of Verona on our Mom Critiques Wildbow, it always like really throws me off, and I find it strange because a lot of Verona is not like me, but I really admire all the ways that she's grown. I really love her love of learning, and I really love. I mean, yeah, she's just creating this house for like outcasts and a place where people can come together and just like be cool and be loved, and that's so great.
Yeah.
But then Avery is like positive and upbeat and loves people and loves just everything. I don't know. And then like Lucy has like grown so much and is just like such a good person and like will do the right thing no matter what. And I love that about her too. But
You're not going to get out of answering
I'm
this
trying
one.
to think of like which one, like whose chapters do I get the most excited about? And it's really like whichever one.
I think Charles is in
we
there then.
have-
Look, if a Charles
like whichever
chapter
one we
came
haven't
out,
seen in a while. Oh my god.
like I'm just if that's your metric, I think Charles is up there.
Charles. Yeah, I'll say Avery. God, none of them feel it. I hate it. Okay.
So it's locked in as
Okay,
it's
so
Avery, and you
good.
hate the other two. Okay.
They're the worst.
All right.
It's awful.
Yeah, such a nice, like, light question. It always feels like it's like a little bit of an argument in a
Yeah.
all in good fun, but still.
Yeah, I do feel like it's the part in this. I feel like at the beginning I would like be like, no, it's obviously Avery, and now I'm like, every time someone says anything, I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, it's so hard to not agree with them.
Yeah.
Like Jenny, you were talking about like Lucy has this beautiful sense of justice, and like she's just so kind. And it's like, oh God, she's amazing. Well, I still prefer Verona, but God, she is really good.
If we sat here
Yeah,
long enough, you could convince me any of them are the best.
that feels right for me too, SDF.
Yeah, I think I'd still think Lucy is the best, but I think that the other two are really, really great. So I love them all. Yeah. All right. I think now we can actually get into the arc title meaning.
I've put a lot of thought into this.
Yes. Thank you very much, STF, for writing this entire thing for us. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So as a reminder, the arc title is Let Slip. And STF, do you want to just like go off, or what do we want to do?
We could take turns reading sections of this.
All right.
I can take the first bullet point.
Okay.
Okay. So, let slip is to say something by mistake, or it also is a reference to this Shakespeare passage, which is like to release a hound from the leash so as to begin the chase. So, let slip the dogs of war. And specifically with like the Shakespeare line, it's like a reference to fighting breaking out, right? Which I think is really fitting for an arc that centers around gosh, I can't talk anymore. It's so late. Centers around two sides, like slowly inching their way towards outright war, and then finally ending the arc with the truce breaking and, quote unquote, the dogs of war being let slip. And I also thought there was like a fun reference to this in like 20.7 where Charles says like, oh, I know the forces arrayed against you. I won't restrain them. So now that the truce has ended, he's let slip those forces that will now attack the Kenneteers.
That's good. That's good. Okay.
That's pretty cool.
Now, this next line is also written by STF. I've just changed the color in our document so that I read it. So any information that comes from this, don't credit me. I didn't do shit. This is STF. Since this line is a reference to a particular Shakespeare passage, fitting that the arc started off with a confrontation with the wolf. Since the last time we saw her, she quoted the same passage. Infants courted with the hands of war, the wolf told John, catching his wrist. 10.a.
I like it. All right. Another meaning is to let slip information. The arc starts with the wolf letting slip secrets about Avery and the Garricks, which that part also, like, what the fuck? But anyway, Avery's practice is revealed to the Kelly siblings as well. Let slip.
One thing I just was thinking of in terms of like physically slipping, Alpy didn't let Verona slip down the ruins. And then the slide.
That's true.
But yeah, so sorry. My piece of STF's thing is to physically let something slip, like to let something slip through your fingers. So yeah, one of those things is like things falling. But in this case, she's pointed out that Charles let the girls slip away from him at the very end of the arc. What else?
I mean, it's hard to add much more to that because I feel like that pretty much covers it. Awesome job, STF.
Thank you.
I'm glad that you didn't STF you.
Hey.
Oh, Jenny. How long you been holding that one?
I love it.
That was good.
Longer than I should admit, so I won't admit it. But
I thought you came up with it on the spot. I was really impressed.
I'm like, well, I gotta think of a time, or I'm just gonna have to let it go and let it slip. I wasn't gonna let it slip through my fingers.
That was perfect.
Kippos, I love for this next section this next section you've just written. Oh God.
Yeah, a bit before I go to that section, I did have a quick comment on other arc talk.
Yeah,
and it's mainly about the wolf. And me personally, I think I don't like the wolf and the child as the two descriptors. I don't think that fits into it at all. Personally, I have been looking at it at least for a little while now as just predator prey. And I know, like, in arc, oh god, whenever they first came onto the promenade, whenever that was, there was a lot of talk as the wolf as pure nemesis. And I think the wolf kind of is this, like, at least to me, it seems like a pure predator. Like, which is why, in a way, it actually works with Wunderkind. I can't pronounce that. Wunderkind. Works with Wunderkind a bit throughout, like, and works with Giselle on the promenade but also doesn't, like, because it is like predator prey, and like the people that are playing the part of the prey are 100% the Garricks and Avery as they flee from Giselle throughout the parts, while Giselle plays the part of a predator. But at the same time, the wolf knows that it is the predator, so it will also predate upon Giselle and her sliver of wolf at some point, but it will let let it play out as it's playing out in this predator-prey relationship, and it'll target the most prey thing there. That's at least how I have been looking at it, because, you know, in 20.2, we do see, like, when Wunderkind is stepping onto the path and starting to follow, you know, the Garrix before Avery and co have left, like, the wolf is going after them. Like, the wolf is not going after Wunderkind because they are running. They are, you know, being prey. And I feel like that's also kind of why it works with Snowdrop, where she is playing her part as the prey, but, you know, prey do have certain advantages over predators. Like, if an opossum, like, pretends to be dead, that is its advantage over, like, a hunting predator. So, like, the wolf conforms to the relationship, and, you know, if the prey lies, then the wolf has to believes the prey's lie. Yeah. I don't know, it's just something kind of how I've been thinking about the wolf
That
and
makes me
the child.
Wonder if, as we're going into, like, the judges, like, the predator-prey thing makes me think of the Carmine and the Alabaster. And so I wonder if the wolf and the child or other aspects of that are going to get drawn in explicitly, or if not. Because, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I think that ties in really well with just, like, the general, like, how fundamental the dynamic of fleeing and pursuing is to the paths.
Yeah, exactly.
But it makes sense that, like, two architects would be, like, not just wolf child, but predator prey.
Yeah, so that also, this is going to sound like I'm being sarcastic, but no, that actually did play into how I was, like, part of why I was thinking about it like that way, because, you know, kind of linking these things, and, like, the wolf is clearly, like, a fundamental part of the paths. And so linking it to another fundamental part of the paths, which is, you know, the pursuit, it's predator prey. Like, it's another predator-prey relationship.
And they're paths. They're not
stations.
You traverse them, and so
That was all I wanted to say.
You got to be careful bringing up the paths. I'll start talking about Pisces, and no one wants that.
Probably everyone wants that. But
I mean, you said I did read the document that you wrote about Pisces and the paths, and I think I read like 12 chapters because it was interesting.
But here's a fun thing that I always love doing. We get to speculate on what the end game of this story is and come up with some bold and specific predictions about
snap
stuff.
Okay, I will start because I'm the only one that's written anything here. So I'm just going to first I'll just read what I wrote. Oh God,
no one had to know.
So, you know, clearly I was feeling positive about writing a theory at the start of this. But I do think I have a theory, which is, like, at the end of the day, like at the end of the story, the judges will not have changed. It'll be the same Aurum, Sable, Alabaster, Carmine. Like, there will be no change at the end of the story. It'll just be a change in how they interact with each other and the world. Like, I explicitly do think they will keep Charles because Charles is incredibly useful because he will unforswear people, and that's cool. That's the theory.
Yeah, that's interesting, because even if, like, the judges were a different configuration, like, the judge system would still be in place. So, like, what does that solve necessarily? Yeah. And, like, you wish that they could instead just, like, get rid of the institution, but the girls are not about to just, like, overturn the seal. That's not something I would see coming. Or, like, if they did, like, maybe that would be such an upheaval that would, like, set up the sequel as, like, the consequences of trying to get rid of this system.
Yeah, and I think, because we did see a bit of, like, what would happen if you tried to, like, completely fuck things up. Which is, like, practitioners from other areas that are, like, way more powerful than you just, like, swoop in and, like, cool, we'll just scoop up all of this power now. Thank you very much for, like, screwing this up. And now we will reestablish the seal, because the seal works in our favor. Right. And having it be weak somewhere works against us. Yeah.
I wonder how that does play into... Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
I wonder how that does play into Charles's plan, because, you know, back in Arc 13, when we were, like, Alcazaring the Carmine, the judges were pretty firm that if you were to get rid of forswearing in a region, well, first of all, everyone in that territory loses the benefits of the seal. You know, they don't have as much protections as they did before, but, like, because everything is weaker, they're like, people would come and conquer the region and replace the judges with new judges who would enforce the seal, and, like, you would have accomplished nothing. And, like, I wonder if Charles thinks he has a way around that, or if he were to keep going down this path, like that's what would eventually happen is people would just come in and take over.
So, yeah, because at the moment, because we haven't necessarily seen if he is getting rid of forswearing, because he might be, I mean, I think forswearing is something that happens pretty rarely, so he may at some point forswear someone, but I think what might be the difference here is, like, Charles might forswear someone, and then 10 seconds later, he'll be like, okay, cool, now time to unforswear you. And, oh yeah, that person that, like, put you up for being forsworn, time to rip his head off. Like, to put it into, like, a soft power. It feels weird to say a soft power when I'm talking about Charles ripping people's heads off. But, you know, like, pushing it to, like, yes, people in the area can be forsworn, but as soon as they are, he will just come and undo it, and then punish the person that forswore them. So it's not, he doesn't hurt the seal in this scenario, but he just kind of makes it still a nicer place for forsworn, and disincentivizes, like, forswearing. But that's just a theory.
Yeah.
Somebody else please come up with an end game.
Don't make me give one.
No, here, this is what I do. I think that Sylvia will become aware in arc 23.
That's bold and
That is so
I
bold.
gotta do it. I can't wait for the arc 30 reflecting episode when we bring on, 2 more ladies.
What do we double it again?
No, we have to double it again exponentially.
Yeah.
Oh no!
We're up to 8. That'll be fun.
Okay. That'll be fun.
It's amazing to me that Sylvia is not already aware. She just, I mean, I know people talk about this a lot, but she just seems like she would take to the practice so naturally.
I feel like with the Kelly family thing, like, just don't do it until after New Year's, for fuck's sake. Like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
like, absolutely
so
don't touch it
terrible.
with a 10-foot pole until, like, everything is calmed down. And then, yeah, I can actually see Sylvia, working really well with practice in very much a similar vein to Verona.
That's fair. Maybe not like right this second.
So,
Now's
Arc
a bad
24
time.
sounds about right.
All right.
I feel like I had a lot of a better idea about what's going on in the story back when, like, the conspiracy was the center point, and now I'm just like things
it's
are
so
happening.
open.
I don't know.
It could go anywhere.
It does feel like we're heading closer to the, like, Charles confrontation or whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe that helps. / who will we get an epilogue
I mean,
from?
to be fair, that's definitely true. That's been true every
Yeah.
chapter.
Since arc 13, yeah.
Like, we're always getting closer. We just don't know how close.
Guys, I can guarantee that we are closer to the end of the story than last arc.
No, that's specific, but it's not very bold.
One of the things I've been thinking about is that, the trio has, like, left Kennet at the end of this arc. And we know that the Kenneteers have already started to call the trio, like, the old practitioners of Kennet. So I think the natural next step there is that the Kenneteers are going to try to, like, take over the title of the practitioners of Kennet because, the girls have left, and in leaving, they arguably gave up their claim to that title. They're not there anymore. They all left, like, as a unit. And so I think that the Kenneteers are going to, like, swoop in, declare themselves the practitioners of Kennet, and then do as much as they can while the girls are gone to, like, delegitimize them. Like, make the argument that the girls, like, abandoned their post. And I wonder what kind of impact that would have on the girls. Like, would it make it more difficult for them to access their power source? Could they even get in trouble with their awakening oaths? I mean, Charles could certainly argue that. So that's kind of what I see on the horizon.
Okay.
Just means they'll have to pull a muscle and just come back and be like, yeah, you say you're the practitioners of Kennet, but fucking stop me, and then just walk over them.
Okay. I have a bold-ish, at least. I think it's bold enough. Bold and specific. Specific enough. Not the most specific, but it's good enough. We'll see. I think that by the end of the story, it's gonna, be one of those things where not everybody gets what they want. But I think that the new judges are gonna come out of the Kenneteers.
Ooh.
That's a good
The
one. I
mentors
like that
or the
one.
kids?
Thanks. That's one of the specific things. Let's say the kids.
Ooh. Carolyn for Alabaster. Feels about right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I feel like they'd get along pretty
Yeah.
well.
Honestly,
Because Alabaster has to kill the old Alabaster to become the new one, right? So
torture the old Alabaster to the point that
There's something.
killing it is an act of mercy. And then perform that act of mercy and kill it. Which is, that was a fucked thing that we learned in
That's
Arc
so
13.
nice.
That's
right. I forgot about that.
smart.
Yeah, block that out. It's not nice.
Not nice. Anyway, so I think that we are reaching a nice ending point, although I do think we could talk about this arc for a really long time. But we're hoping to do maybe a short-ish back-to-packed section with up to like the beginning of arc 12, wherever we are in Pale in Comparison, so that STF and I can talk and the two of you can nod. But thanks so much for joining us. This has been really, really fun. Do y'all want to plug anything?
I have nothing to plug, but thank you so much for having me. It was really fun to come back.
Yeah, I'll plug Pace. If you haven't listened to Pace yet, go listen to Pace. It was really fun. It's an RPG set kind of in the Otherverse where Reuben advances the story like 10,000 years and says, "What now?" And it's very cool. It was a blast to play. And please listen to it and tell me that it was fun on the Discord, because that makes my
Can confirm that Pace is excellent.
And hopefully someday there will be a Pace 2. And we should
Electric
all...
Boogaloo.
That makes me so happy. So we're gonna see, Jenny and I have our outro really scripted, and the others just have bullet points, so we're gonna do some bullet points. Review Pale Reflections on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. We want 5 stars.
Or
5
else.
stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
And you can say how the Arc 20 reflecting episode was so great and you want more.
If you don't give us 5 stars, I will come horrify you. Just so you're aware. And you will not have a Monty.
So sad.
5 stars. But yeah, check out the Twitter where they post dank pale memes every day. I've been told every day. At Pale Reflect Cast. And Doof Media has a website. It's doofmedia.com. And that's where you can go to learn about things like our show, Pale in Comparison, which is where we both read Pact and I make bold and specific predictions about it. And Jenny laughs.
I don't always laugh. Hourly.
Sometimes you don't laugh.
Sometimes I'm like, damn, that was really good. And sometimes, I'm like, that was just amazing in whatever way you want to take that. But yeah, we both read it. I catch up on it, or she catches up on it. I reread it.
It's very fun. Good podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
5 stars.
Not gonna lie, I read Pact just to listen to Pale in Comparison.
Really?
Bless.
Thank you.
That is really
actually,
sweet.
That's why I'm perfectly in sync.
I do love Pact. It's a mess, but I love it.
It's a fun
good way to
mess.
describe it. It's a hot
Yes.
mess.
It's a hot mess. And you can contribute to the hot mess that is also our episodes when we go on fun tangents by supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/doofmedia.
And if you want to make sure you support Wildbow's Patreon, and so that he can continue to write fantastic, awesome, yet horrifying stories, you can go to his Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow.
Oh, I do have an alternate pitch for that one, if that's okay.
Ooh, go.
If you wanna support Wildbow in buying chalk because it's expensive, just so he can keep the seal up around the ordinary family, you just got to go to patreon.com/wildbow.
It's really important.
Don't let those fuckers out.
It's for a good cause.
I figured, for the fun of it, I'd look up a fun fact.
Oh, please, thank you.
Okay. I realized that I probably should have tried to look this up beforehand, but about half the time, if not more than half, I tend to look it up as we're in the end point, like right now. So this random, not that exciting fun fact: a baby puffin is called a puffling.
That's an amazing fact. Don't you underhype that one. That's so cute.
I love that.
Oh,
That's so good.
Well, yeah, you just ask Malia out. Like the times where I actually try to plan it out, I like read her like 3 facts. I'm like, is this one good? I don't know if this is that good. That is really cute, though.
That's very good.
Puffling. All right.
Anyway, so for those of you who listen to Pale in Comparison or have actually read Pact, stick around. And for the rest of you, thanks for listening to this super long episode. And we appreciate
Puff
you.
off. In a nice way.
Puff off.
Puff off. Be a little puffling and go. Yeah. Packed.
Pact.
So,
Yay!
Back.
I feel like we could call this section like Pact in Comparison.
Pact.
Because we've been talking about Pale the whole time.
That's true.
And it doesn't have like the wordplay, but
Hey, that's okay. I like it.
Yeah.
Packed in comparison.
So again, STF has written a bunch of good notes. So do you want to talk about that?
I've certainly written a lot of notes.
Love it.
Yeah, so I've been paying a lot of attention recently to like parallels between Pact and Pale, like not like necessarily over like the last arc, but just like recently-ish.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got like Blake's cousins becoming aware as Avery's siblings do. And also Peter and Sheridan remind me of each other a lot. Like they're both just like trash relatives. They're amazing.
that's so mean to Sheridan.
That is pretty
She's
harsh
got the
to
same
Sheridan.
vibe, like how Peter and Sheridan like both caught on like really fast and were like asking the right questions. Like it's a positive comparison.
Like they're both smart.
Yeah.
I could definitely
Sheridan.
see Sheridan braining somebody with part of a toilet. It's,
Like yeah,
If she had to.
unironically. We've got a group fleeing to a scary realm to get away from an attacker. So we've got like Blake and his buddies. I think in like the most recent chapter that I read, they're like heading off to the abyss to like get away from the people who are after them. And then we have the Kenneteers in this last chapter escaping to the paths, which is arguably just as dangerous as the abyss.
Interesting.
We recently had in the story, the paths are dangerous. I mean, I don't think like Avery talks about this enough.
No, you're right.
But like every time she's on a path and she's like, oh yeah, no, I almost died just then. And then. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. This is fine. We also have like, there was like a period of tension between opposing groups that finally broke out into an all-out fight recently. And then it's specifically the groups that are fighting have like, it's essentially groups fighting over like opposing ideas about how to deal with a current situation. So in Jacob's, and we even have like the same sort of factions. So in Jacob's Bell, we have like Sandra kind of representing like tradition, and then Johannes and Blake representing like change and restructuring. And then we have the Beheims wanting to just end up on top. And then in Pale, we had like Musser representing tradition, and then Charles and the Kenneteers representing kind of like change and restructuring. And then we've got like sort of the other judges, also sort of Rook, just kind of wanting to end up on top. So I like how I feel like the main fight in Pact is almost like a step behind the main fight in Pale. Like in Pact, I feel like the main question is like tradition versus change. Like, should we try to change things? Whereas in Pale, it's more like what kind of change? And in fact, like, it's kind of cool that the girls took down Musser before this fight broke out, because that's sort of symbolic of moving past what Pact is currently asking about. Like, we took down Musser. He sort of represented the establishment. So essentially in Pale, we've sort of done away with this embodiment of tradition, and what's left is just to decide what now. So it's like Pale has like moved past Pact a little bit in terms of the kinds of questions it's asking.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah. I was going to talk a little bit about how it's interesting that we've mentioned this earlier, this podcast, how the Kenneteers are inside of the system. They're trying to reform the system. They're trying to like do smaller changes and to like make things better. And Blake is like, if you do that, you're complicit. Like, Blake is like, if you are not actively betraying your family, like, you're allowing this to continue. And like, he's kind of right. Like, Sandra Duchamp did not like the situation she was put in. And I think now even doesn't like the things that she makes her nieces do. And maybe Sandra has like slightly improved things, maybe, but also she didn't at all. And so like with the Kenneteers, thinking about it from the perspective of the Negateers and Charles and other people, like, I mean, the Kenneteers have effectuated a lot more change. And they have a lot more resources and support than Blake does. But I think a lot about like communists and like democratic socialists, and like I think often agree with like the same ideals, but like communists believe in like revolution and like tearing the system down and totally, you know, like you have to destroy the system and rebuild something better. Whereas a lot of democratic socialists, it's more like we will work inside the system and improve it. And I think that Blake and I mean, I still don't understand what Blake is doing. But I think that like Blake hates the seal. And that's fascinating. And I don't think the Kenneteers like a lot about the seal either, but it's like I don't know.
That's interesting because it makes it seem like Blake is almost more the Charles in this situation. Like, whereas I guess the Kenneteers would correspond more to Johannes, like people that are sort of like, I know. The group that's sort of like going for something that builds off the current system versus the group that's like, burn it down. I mean, not that, I mean, Blake hasn't tried to burn anything down, no, except the house. But
I mean, that's a big thing to burn down. Let's be honest.
The house represents society.
And then the demon in the house represents
the demon
how if you burn down the house, everybody dies.
No, they're going to burn down part of the house. It's going to be fine.
What about the demon under the house, Malia?
Yeah. Also that one.
That one also represents society.
You mentioned like Blake trying to get people to like betray their families, and I think it's interesting because the Kenneteers actually have succeeded at this. Like they got Raquel and Liberty and Macaulay and like maybe Fernanda to like work against their families to some degree and have tried to like get them out of bad situations. And it's interesting to see the girls succeed there where Blake failed. And I mean, I think part of it has to do with being a scary tree man. But
yeah, I was going to ask how much do you guys think that comes down to Blake being fucking terrifying?
And just showing up and being like, hi, I don't like you. I don't want to be your friend. Fuck you. Fuck your family. I killed your uncle. I'm not sorry. Like, I love him so much.
Blake is so good.
Oh, that's all fair. That's all fair. And they're fighting against similar. Oh, sorry.
I just said he has a very low charisma stat.
But theoretically, his karma's fine now, right? It's all moved to Rose. Why does he still suck at this?
That might just be him.
Might just be him.
Just his
Might just be
personality.
him.
He's just angry.
He's an angry tree man.
A hot angry tree.
Super hot.
Yeah.
It's undisputed.
So hot. Except for that one person in the abyss that was like, you're not that hot. And then literally every other character that is interested in men is like, oh my god.
That's another parallel to Charles, because remember Y's interlude?
What? I don't remember.
It's just the way that Y describes Charles is just, I don't know, it's another parallel to Blake.
I don't remember that, but I will take your word that Y description fucks the shit out of
this is a more widely
Charles.
regarded thing. I guess it's just me.
That's hilarious. I'm gonna need to look back at that.
I'm sorry.
So this is how like tired I am. When you said like he's really hot, I was thinking temperature, and I was like, I don't remember that, but that explains why as a tree man he'd be really angry.
He's on fire.
Jenny, they want to bang him.
No, it clicked after that, but you know, it just took a minute.
All the
I
ladies
just wanted to tell you where my brain was going.
Yep.
Want some Blake.
So based on where we are in Pact and Pale, I guess, do y'all think that Blake and the Kenneteers would be on the same page? Because I think so, but we are pulling out a lot of comparisons to Charles. I do think that if Blake saw, oh, these girls are affecting like positive change and they are bucking the system, like he'd be happy about it.
On the one hand, I think that Blake would look at Kennet as being something positive, or at least I want to think that. But at the same time, it doesn't seem like Blake likes others that much. Well, no, because it's an interesting dynamic. Yeah, others with a capital O.
Even like literally anyone. I was like, what? Okay.
Blake just doesn't like anyone.
That's also true.
I don't know that he necessarily likes others that much. He likes Evan, of course. And jury's kind of out on whether he likes himself. It kind of seems like he doesn't really care whether he's here at the end of the book. Like, I think he's talked a few times of like, oh yeah, I'm going to fix things. And that includes like getting rid of myself. I remember him saying something like that. But I think he likes Evan because Evan is essentially like a human. He's enough of a human that he's not really other like the Revenant is or like Green Eyes is. And he has moments that like the others around him like are being nice to him and are trying to help him. Like, when the Revenant first talks to him after he's become an other, the Revenant's like, yeah, like here's how it works and here's how you avoid going back to the abyss. Obviously Green Eyes has helped him a lot, but even with Green Eyes, he's like, oh, I kind of feel like she's going to screw me over just because like it's in her nature. So that makes me feel like he might not think that like Kennet is necessarily a good idea, like a place where others can kind of roam free.
There might be part of like how the individual was introduced to others in that, because like chapter 1 of Pale, it's like, oh, there's the mysterious woman without a face and she's been talking to us and she's great. And then like chapter 1 of Pact was like, there are fucking monsters on the road. If you fucking stop and get out of the car, they will hunt you down and kill you. Good luck. Oh, you got to the house? You want to order food? Man. Yeah, the pizza man just got fucking his head caved in to the goddamn fence. And then he got up from that and started laughing at you and like wanted to come get you. Like, I do feel like there's just a small difference between those two introductions. Like, I feel for Blake when he's like, others, I don't know, I'm a bit worried, I'm a little bit scared.
It is a reason that he wouldn't necessarily be on the same page as the Kenneteers, who, like, as you said, have had a very different introduction to this world. And, like, they haven't necessarily seen the really bad others. They haven't seen the hyena. They haven't met any demons. And so I think their view of others is a lot more positive on the whole. I think I did talk about this last time I was reflecting on Arc 12, just that it seems like Pact and Pale come at others from like opposite directions and sort of like move towards the middle a little bit. Like Pale definitely starts off with like, oh, others are just like people trying to get by. And then over the course of the book, you get a little more nuance, like in meeting others that can't necessarily be reasoned with. Like we get a few bogeymen thrown in there. Whereas Pact starts out very much as like others are scary monsters first and foremost, and then you sort of meet some more sympathetic others as the book goes on, like Green Eyes and Evan, of course. But I think both
There's also
books like
June.
don't really
Don't
get
forget
to.
June.
He did love
And June.
He loved
R.I.P.
June.
I guess she was already dead, but
genuinely, it's
R.I.P.
one of
anyway.
as someone that's read Pact, one of the best things is, for example, listening to Pale in comparison and hearing Malia go, these goblins can't be that bad. They're so nice. And it's like, Jesus Christ, Malia. They actually did torture Molly to death. That was true. That was not hyperbolic.
Yeah. I hate it. So that's the funny thing about like looking at people who have read Pact first and then go to Pale as opposed to the opposite, because as you can tell with Malia, like people have read Pale first, go into Pact thinking already like the best, or at least like, oh, they're just trying to get by, and like, oh, we don't know the backstory of these others. They might just be something to go on. Whereas if you've read Pact first and are going into Pale, like, at least for me, like starting to read that story, like I was just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like I was waiting, like, when are these others going to really, start showing their true colors? And it took me a little while to actually be like, all right.
Yeah, I think it's interesting when a while ago, I don't remember when in the story. Again, the story is very long. If anybody didn't know, it's hard to remember when things happen. But the Kenneteers talk about how, like, the others in the town have blood on their hands. And, like, as someone who read Pact first, I was like, yeah, no shit. Like, I would be shocked if any of these others hadn't hurt or killed someone. Like, genuinely fucking shocked. And I don't know. It was interesting to me to be like, yeah, okay, that was expected. And then like the Kenneteers are like, oh my god, we looked up to you, and it's like, yeah, but
compared to everybody, I mean, yeah, like they're doing pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And then it was nice. I don't know. Maybe nice isn't quite the right word, but and like in Pale, getting stuff like about the milkmaid and things like that, to where it's like, okay, you get to see some really like monstrous stuff that you can't
excuse.
I don't know.
But I also love that this introduction to the milkmaid is also like a pairing with kind of her like reintroduction into society, like not taking the like judicial justice quotation marks like imprisonment, and not like sealing the milkmaid away into a jar of milk, and instead being like, okay, you are a full being that does horrible shit. Like, how do we get you from where you are now to where you can be in society safely and interacting with people and just being positive? And I think that's kind of like a really interesting thing to look at in Pale, that like when we see those like fucked others, it's oftentimes paired with, and how can we rehabilitate them? Whereas,
it does make you think about like how would the Kenneteers think about like meeting a demon, and how would they reconcile that with their worldview? Like how would that fit into the idea of what Kennet is? Because I mean, taking in the milkmaid is such a big step, because the milkmaid is one of those characters who's just like very much like, you feel like she probably can't be brought back from the edge. And even if she could, like, do we really want to, with like her history of how many people she's killed? But like the fact that they're doing it is like showing that like they're willing to really compromise when it comes to like the blood on others' hands. And so like, how would they handle something just so out of the realm of something that you could possibly deal with?
I don't know, SDF. I mean, I have actually like listened to Pale in comparison, and I distinctly remember one of the hosts. Now, I don't remember which host, but one of the hosts is laughing. And you know, they said like early on, like they're nice demons.
Yeah.
Like they're not that bad. Just good, friendly demons.
Yeah, they're nice.
I'm sure
ones.
the demons would go great in Kennet.
Yeah, not demon.
No issues.
It is
cool.
interesting. Like, where's the line? In Pact, we've been in War's Head now, and it doesn't seem possible for War to change or pose to. Pose honestly seems slightly more possible than Ur, but. See, Pale Readers are the worst.
Sounds I could see like chilling with the goblins, you know?
Yeah. I can also see...
Maybe I'll need to reread.
Yeah, I can see Pose being like in the deep warrens and doing great down there. I could also see Pose like fucking taking over like any organization of goblins anywhere else and twisting them to his means. I
feel like in Poose's perspective, he would do great anywhere. You know,
he'd be down.
It wouldn't be great for anybody, but like he would just thrive.
There is a follow-up question of: do you guys think you would reread Pact?
Yeah, definitely.
Instant yes from Malia. Yeah,
I mean, I've spent so much time thinking about the story and reading the story, and I love it. And it does seem like we're about to take a much darker and more serious turn in the story, because I forgot that people die and suddenly somebody's died again, and I'm like, oh fuck, I have to get back my list of the problematic men to mourn.
Who died?
The worst scene in Pact
Callan died
for me.
Oh yeah, is that the worst scene?
It was
the shower scene
one?
Was the worst scene for me.
The which one?
The shower one after Poos.
Oh.
When the water runs black, then brown.
I was listening to that scene, like, while I was just, like, biking to work, like, very casual. I'm, like, listening to Pact, biking to work, and then it starts describing, like, this horrific scene as, like, Callan starts bleeding out, and I was like, this is awful. Like, this is not, straight up not setting me up for a good work day.
No. Yeah, I was like, oh, shit, like, more of these people might just die.
It's a shame that Awake for Callan doesn't rhyme.
I know. Yeah,
I mean, who
I'm
knows?
trying
It
to
could have been the
poem for
last
him.
one.
Get my list back.
Callan deserves sort of.
Maybe, who knows, Malia? Maybe the good demons will come out, and the real tragedy of the
racism against
story
demons.
is that, we could have been having a deep friendship the whole time and come to an understanding. Yeah.
Well, I think though that because thinking like, okay, what would for some reason Lucy keeps popping into my head. What would Lucy do about a demon? But we've seen that like the Kenneteers are. I mean, Lucy is willing to kill. Like Lucy's willing to enact violence, and she has a line. And I think that like the Bjorkmen, they were like, "Yep, fucking wrap that guy up. Like, get that guy back in his box." Like, I think that there's a level wherein the Kenneteers would be like, no bad. But considering how many things we see that that have the potential to change, my question is kind of like, where is the line? And everybody in Pale seems fucking clear that like the sliver of a demon, like, no way, absolutely let it like burn dead. The judges unmake it. Like,
no, the judges did not unmake it. The judges
shove it
opened
somewhere?
a portal and
Right.
yote it somewhere for somebody else to deal
they
with.
suck so bad.
I think you may have misforgotten that one. No, they unmade everything else in the
Right.
in the contest, but not the
Right.
sliver.
They suck so bad.
Or alternatively, it takes 3 gods to deal with a sliver, and they still can't deal with it very well.
I think you're right, though. There's a clear line, or at least at some point the line becomes clear, and the Kenneteers probably wouldn't feel all that conflicted about keeping a demon out of Kennet. I wonder about something like Pow's, though, whether, like, how do you decide whether something can be rehabilitated?
He's not a full demon yet, y'all.
Jenny's got a look.
He's in the lifestyle of a demon. Like, not the lifestyle, the life stages of a demon. He's a demon.
Like,
I think he's a demon.
I don't know. I'm
pretty solidly. I don't know about y'all.
I don't know. I'm just like, I don't know. I just feel like maybe just reread some of those parts again.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Just
although I do think, rehabilitation comes in part from a desire to rehabilitate yourself. And who's no, he was doing good. He was having a good time.
I think YBUTP, you're being unfair to Pows.
That's fair. You know, I can't come back from that.
Can't believe you compared Taylor to a demon, but
that tracks. That works. Yeah.
oh wow!
It's us Pale readers. We're so sappy.
Okay. Yeah.
No, I think I'm with
like,
Jenny
holy
here.
crap,
Y'all
guys.
should go
Come
reread parts of that. Just
I mean, yeah. Like,
Maybe I've repressed it.
I don't know. I'm trying to see if there's any good
definitely
quotes I
repressed it, yeah.
think if I can come up with.
I've
in
repressed a
here.
lot.
well, just all the like starving animals and the everything being super gross everywhere, and the old man who he wouldn't let die. Like
It's pretty
like,
bad, man. Like
it was really bad.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's.
it's pretty bad, man. That's also how I feel about demons.
But not the demon under the house. That's the friendly
No,
one.
that's the hug demon.
Oh, that's a
Hugging
nice
the
one.
house.
Yeah,
Full of love.
yeah, it's gonna be fine.
It's
Oh
gonna
my
be fun. It's definitely interesting to like listen to Deep in Pact because I feel like it gives this insight of like, okay, you're a Pact only reader. What is your perspective on like others as a whole at this point? Because I feel like there's definitely been moments in Pact where I'm like, oh, this is such a great moment to like really feel empathy for others. But like not moments like the Revenant talking to Blake about like how he stays out of the abyss. And like, to be fair, the Revenant is talking about how he's like murdering and frightening people. Kind of, but like in that moment, I was like, yeah, this is like a really great example of like how sometimes others like don't have a choice. And then I was listening to Deep in Pact and they were like, that's horrifying. And I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other verse 3, Wildbow's gonna have to find some sort of middle of like others are bad, but not like awful.
Others are just people, and some people are really horrible, and some people are really
yeah.
good. And it incentivizes people to be horrible when they gain power by scaring people and or killing them. So, and it keeps them out of hell. So that's also why they do that, I think. I would scare people if they kept me out of hell. I don't know about y'all, but...
It's almost hard to reconcile like the trio's world versus Blake's world, because they just have such a different experience of this universe and like the things that are possible within it.
You know, reading Pale after reading Pact has been a hell of a ride, and watching people read Pact,
it's fun.
Quote, after reading Pale is a hell of a ride.
I'll never forget when you said maybe they're good demons. You know, I'll just never. I don't know. I try to have a poker face at least like a good amount of the time, but like
that's too much.
I was just like, are you like what? Good demon. A nice demon.
You know, it's just a label. You know, you shouldn't categorize others and put them into boxes because it doesn't make sense.
I mean, I feel like sometimes it does. I feel like
sometimes
it can be useful for like a demon. I mean, maybe I'm just being close-minded to all the poor little poozes out there.
Little Erlings.
No, you don't. You're
Shut up.
Fucking lying, Kippos.
Don't gainsay me, maybe. Okay? Charles is out there. Charles.
Your favorite Kenneteers.
Oh dear.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, well, I guess we'll see. I'm excited for you both to keep following this journey and see how many hug demons and fuzzy little things and niceness we see. And that's definitely the last death. Don't worry about that.
No stress.
It's gonna be fine.
No stress.
Yeah, no stress. Yeah.
Look.
No, it's going to be fine. No more death. All the demons going forward are going to be nice. Powers is going to come back and be like, I've changed my mind, Blake. I actually really want to help you with this.
Help. And like, I'm basically the size of a baby. So I'm like a baby demon. So
yeah.
And then Blake and Green Eyes are going to get married.
Wait,
you guys know how it is with Wildbow stories. Like Wildbow stories, when you come to the end, they really just wind down. Like just casual. They really it's like at a 10 beforehand, and the last like 3 arcs, it's like bringing it down to like a 2. We're just chilling out, having a good casual time.
It's like, it's a happy ending, happily ever after. Everyone gets what they want, and it's fine.
Yeah,
right.
That's a Wildbow story. That's the formula of Wildbow story. It's stressful at the start, but then it's
like
chill.
You know,
I have like no idea where Pact's going, and it's really fun.
It's gonna be fine.
It's
so
going
fun.
It's going to a demon, but I don't know what else.
A hug demon of friendship.
A friendship demon. Yes,
like the Teletubbies.
Wait, what?
Just Teletubbies.
Okay, maybe I watched one episode of the Teletubbies because I was trying to show my kids because I thought it was like a good kid show, and they both got scared. And frankly, so did I, because it looked creepy.
I think that's pretty valid.
Oh god,
it was so creepy looking.
The baby son, it's too much.
It was, well, that was the only part that like my daughter at least kind of like. She's kind of a baby. I mean, she's a toddler now, I guess, but she was like, oh, there's another one that kind of looks like me. And then like the weird things running around in the grass that just making weird noises, and I don't know, turn into a big fuzzy TV on one of their bellies.
I remember hearing that like the suits are like 8 feet tall, like the Teletubby suits, like they're huge. And this is just me remembering this, but I'm pretty sure that the Teletubby suits are like fucking big as hell.
It's wild.
And it looks very jarring next to like a human person.
You know what? Anyone who loves Teletubbies or kids love Teletubbies, nothing against you. The people who've made Teletubbies, like, sure, a lot of people love them, but holy fuck, I thought they were creepy. I don't know. I thought that I'd watched them before just because I'd heard of them so much. Definitely did not. I would have remembered that.
Yeah. Anyway, on that note,
Okay.
this has been so fun, y'all.
Yes.
It's been really fun.
Yes, thank you for doing this. I'm looking forward to arc 30 where we can come back and chat about the next time Avery goes to the promenade, because the first time the promenade was arc 10 because that was our arc. So it'll be great. She'll unlock the singularities. I don't remember what they're called.
It's it.
Cool.
Arc 30.
And we'll
It's a
have to
plan.
find
All right, deal. We're gonna do it. That's right. We're gonna hijack it from Reuben and Elliot again, although maybe they'll come on as well. It's gonna be good.
Hopefully their connection
Mhm.
blockers don't
I
get too
know.
good.
Maybe that's what was going on
Ooh,
earlier when we were having
Sneaky
technical
bastards.
difficulties. Maybe they're
Trying to get
working on
Yeah.
trying to
their
get their podcast.
sneaky
Keep us
bastards.
out.
Mhm.
You're
Yeah,
onto something.
I know.